So, good morning, everyone. This is the final call to find your seats. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 2025 OECD Conference on Mining Regions and Cities. My name is Kimmo Tiilikainen. I'm Director General of the Geological Survey of Finland, and it's great pleasure to welcome you all to the 6th OECD Conference on Mining Regions and Cities. We are very pleased to have you here in person and to see such a diverse group of policymakers, regional leaders, researchers, industry representatives, and community voices gathered together. But before we begin, a few important safety announcements. So there are 2 emergency exits in the front of this auditorium. Please take a moment to locate them. Now you have recognized them. And the first aid point is located just outside of the door, next to the information desk, and if needed, there is also a defibrillator. Your conference booklet, this one in the middle of that, it contains a brief safety guide and information on the designated assembly points outside of the university. And in that case, just go straight out of the main door and turn right. The nearest assembly point will be there. There are 2 safety personnel present throughout the event, and they can be identified by small yellow signs on their shirts. Here you can see one example. And event organizers are wearing white shirts with a Finnish phrase printed on them, "Elämä on liian lyhyt elettäväksi etelässä," which means life is too short to be lived in the south. So if you have any questions or need assistance, feel free to approach these persons with the t-shirts white. I would also like to remind you that the morning session until lunch will be live streamed. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge and thank those who made this conference possible. I would like to recognize the support from the European Commission, who launched the reports of European mining regions, and all the support for the whole conference today. Our sincere thanks also to the Regional Council of Lapland and the Geological Survey of Finland. You were shaping the program and bringing together such a rich group of participants. We are also grateful to our sponsors for their generous support in making this conference a success. And finally, a warm thank you to the University of Lapland for hosting us and providing such an excellent venue for dialogue and exchange. Your contributions have been key to enabling this space for collaboration, learning, and shared progress. A special thank you to those who joined us yesterday for the icebreaker session. We hope it helps spark some good conversations and set the tone for the open exchange we aim to encourage throughout this event. And before we dive in deep to the substance, a brief note. This conference is intended to be a respectful space for dialogue. Across the next 2 days, you will have many opportunities to participate in QA sessions and informal exchanges. We encourage you to share your experience, raise questions, and offer ideas, always with the spirit of constructive, inclusive conversation that this complex topic deserves. In addition to today's session, we invite you to join us for a casual dinner this evening and tomorrow a field tour, which will give us a chance to see how some of these issues play out in the practice. There will also be many networking opportunities to connect, collaborate, and continue the discussions beyond the panel format. Dear participants, as many of you know, the growing demand for mineral raw materials, critical for renewable energy, electric mobility, defense industries, digital technologies, the need of them is intensifying global efforts to secure resilient and ethical supply chains. In response, governments are scaling up both domestic mining and circular economy initiatives. But behind every project lies a place, a region, city, and community where impacts are experienced, relationships are built, and trust is tested. This is why the regional dimension of mining is so essential, whether it's innovation capacity, governance frameworks, or public acceptance. The local context matters, and subnational actors play a vital role in shaping what responsible mining looks like. Ladies and gentlemen, I was honored to be chair of the steering committee that created a new mineral strategy for Finland. It was just given to the government last December. There were two observations that I would like to raise here. First of all, the strategy was growth strategy, how we can get wealth and jobs and raise the added value of the extracted minerals. But at the same time, very strong cross-cutting theme throughout the mineral strategy was responsibility and sustainability. The local perspective, the regional aspect was very well recognized throughout the process of the strategy and in the final outcome. It recognized the opportunities that mineral resources offer for local economies. But it also recognized the tensions that may occur between different businesses, but first of all, for the social and environmental aspects. Social license to operate was discussed a lot throughout the mineral strategy process. And it's good to recognize that opposite of the official permits that some administration or authorities can give, this social license to operate is the one that must be deserved every day. So it may vary throughout the processes. Sometimes it may be weak, sometimes it may be strong, sometimes it may be absent. And therefore, to maintain and keep and achieve this kind of social license to operate, a lot of dialogue is needed. Having said this, I would say that over the next 2 days, this conference will explore place-based strategies to strengthen trust between stakeholders, address social polarization, advance regional innovation ecosystems, ensure that mining contributes to environmental cause and local value creation. That's all items that are very much called in the mineral strategy. So we look closely at the need for collaboration and mutual understanding around mining projects. Often tensions arise from unresolved legacies, lack of accessible information, or limited opportunities for inclusive and early dialogue. Building trust means creating space for people to be heard and committing to long-term transparent engagement. We also highlight the power of innovation, not just technological, but also institutional and social, to ensure mining is aligned with sustainability, community priorities, and the green transition. Ladies and gentlemen, this year's program is built around two central pillars. Pillar 1, community participation, trust, and communication in mining. This pillar is addressing social polarization and misinformation, ensuring transparency on environmental impacts, strengthening inclusive decision-making at all project stages, and designing benefit-sharing models and support long-term local well-being. Then we have Pillar 2, advancing regional research and innovation for sustainable mining. It addresses improving access to innovation support for local actors, scaling environmentally responsible exploration practices, and building regional platforms for collaboration and technology testing, and also supporting local SMEs and workforce development. Together, these pillars reflect the need to link global ambitions for the green transition with the realities and aspirations of local communities. That's a very severe task to do. Thank you once again for your presence and your commitment to this important dialogue. We look forward to your contributions. And now, to officially begin our opening session, I am pleased to hand over to Mr. Mika Riipi, member of the Finnish Parliament, who knows very well Lapland, and he will deliver the opening remarks. Mika Riipi, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Kimmo. Good morning to everybody, dear participants of the conference. It gives me a great pleasure to be here and also a big honor to be here participating in the conference right here in Rovaniemi, in the capital of Lapland. As many of you might know that in my previous position as a governor of Lapland, I much tried to highlight the collaboration between the regions, and during the years I've been participating also with the OECD within the series of this kind of gatherings, and I felt that they've been very useful. And the idea in the background was that when the mining and the green transition in big scale started, it created a huge challenges into regional development. And the idea of a collaboration was that we are not alone with these challenges. There are different regions all over the Europe, all over the world, that has the same kind of challenges, and it would be good to have a collaboration forum network. It's good to benchmark, it's good to learn from each other, and I sincerely feel that the series of these kind of meetings, they've been quite meaningful for us in the regional level. Today, the green or clean transition in Finland is moving quite fast, and it especially shows up here, up north. There are a lot of different investment plans and also investments done already up here, and mainly it's focused on the sustainable energy production, either wind power, solar power, or plans of opening up new pump power plants. But it also shows up here about increasing of the different mining and exploration projects. And of course the pressure, the geopolitical situation and pressure from the European Union, the demand of the critical raw materials, it's speeding up the development very much up here. But in the same time, I must say that there are other challenges, and they are all related into land use. For example, the pressure from the state-owned forestry, the cumulative affections of different projects, energy, forestry, mining, they are affecting. They are affecting, for example, reindeer herding, but they are affecting the local people in overall, and that creates a lot of challenges. Today in the national level politics, there is actually not at all discussion about the social acceptance, and I feel it quite sad. What we are talking in the national level is three things. What's the right taxation level of mining? That's one. Second is how to speed up the permitting processes. That's actually important. And then there are discussions about contradiction between different projects and nature protection areas. Here in Finland, the Natura 2000 area. And almost all discussion goes into one project, which is a spearhead. Of course, here in Lapland, it's the Sakatti mining process. These are the three themes that we are discussing in the national level, not at all about the acceptance. I feel a little sad. I know that the companies and the municipalities do a great work in enhancing the local level dialogue, but the problem is that we need a more cumulative approach in the future. 2 years ago, when the Sustainable Network of Finland, which was a successful program adopted from Canada, was closed, I proposed with the former governor of Lapland, Mrs. Annele Pokka, sort of a state-level dialogue platform to all green transition industries, not only mining. But it didn't start. But I warmly highlight and welcome this conference from both subjects, improving the community participation and advancing the research and innovation in mining. My sincere hope is that we find common solution-based paths to tackle these challenges. I come personally from Sodankylä, and I live about 50 kilometers from now operating Kevitsa mine. And if the Sakatti mine opens up, it's about 40 kilometers from my home. And if the Ikkari opens, it's about 15 kilometers from my home. Even that, I live in the middle of these projects, I feel very confident that with the good communication, rightful taxation policy benefiting the local community, and adjusting the holistically different green transition projects together, I can still live there very peacefully also in the future. Within these thoughts, I wish you all a fruitful conference, and let's try to tackle these challenges together. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mika Riipi, for your insights and the local perspective. Now it's time to see recorded video greetings from Judith Rosa, Director of SG Reform from the EU Commission.
Good morning, Your Excellencies, distinguished participants, colleagues and guests from across Europe and around the world. It is an honor to join you virtually for the opening of this important conference. I would like to thank our Finnish hosts for their leadership and the OECD for bringing us together at a time when collaboration between regions, governments and stakeholders has never been more critical. At this point, please allow me to highlight 3 points which have framed our work up till now. First, across the EU and globally, the pressure is mounting to ensure a secure, responsible and sustainable supply of mineral raw materials, those essential building blocks of the green and digital transitions. But this cannot be done in isolation. We need to work together across levels of government, across borders, and with our communities. That's why the European Commission remains strongly committed to supporting regional mining ecosystems. We have taken major steps in this direction. Earlier this year, under the Critical Raw Materials Act, we announced 47 strategic projects across the EU, several of which are located in the regions involved in our work under the technical support instrument with the OECD. These projects will help diversify supply, attract investment, and build trust in mining as a responsible economic activity. In parallel, our Clean Industrial Deal, as set out in the Competitiveness Compass and more broadly in the EU Competitiveness Agenda, supports manufacturers in switching to clean production and technologies, promotes new circular business models, and contributes to more resilient value chains. We are also advancing the clean trade and investment partnerships with global partners to secure critical inputs while upholding the EU's high environmental and social standards. Second, this global and regional engagement comes together in the Technical Support Instrument project, enhancing EU mining regional ecosystems to support the green transition and secure mineral raw materials supply. which has been implemented by the OECD in close cooperation with the European Commission. In the next session, you will hear more about this work and take part at the launch of the project's final output, a set of practical recommendations and a shared action plan, co-created with 10 regions from 5 member states: Finland, Sweden, Portugal, Spain, and Greece. This is not to be perceived as a technical report. It is a foundation for action. It provides a clear pathway on how regions can play a transformative role in securing mineral supply, fostering innovation, and engaging local communities while respecting nature and cultural heritage. It also speaks directly to the themes of this year's conference. How do we build trust and participation in mining regions? And how can research and innovation empower regions to lead in sustainable mining? Through this project, we have seen the power of place-based solutions. We have witnessed how interregional collaboration, capacity building, and evidence-based planning can accelerate progress. We sincerely hope this work will contribute to your discussions and serve as both a good practice and a source of inspiration for regions around the world. Third and last, but certainly not least, I would like to thank our partner regions for their commitment, the OECD for their expert delivery, and our colleagues across the European Commission, particularly DG GROW, for their close collaboration. This is a critical moment to show that Europe can boost its competitiveness while at the same time ensuring the sustainable and secure supply of the raw materials essential for the twin transition. Let me assure you that SG Reform remains firmly committed to supporting reforms that deliver meaningful impact, both in mining and beyond. We look forward to continuing this collaboration and turning shared ideas into lasting impact on the ground. I wish you a productive session and a successful conference. Thank you.
I would like to express our thanks for Ms. Judith Rosa for her contribution. And now it's my great pleasure to invite our next speaker from OECD. She's Dorothée Alain-Dupré, Head of Regional Development and Multi-Level Governance Division from OECD. Welcome, Dorothy. The floor is yours, please.
Thank you very much, Kimmo. Good morning, everyone. And thank you, Mr. Tilikainen, Mr. Ripi, Mrs. Rosa, for your introductory remarks and for setting the scene in a very inspiring way. I am delighted to be here today with you in Rovaniemi to kick off the 6th edition of the OECD Mining Regions and Cities Conference. Let me begin by extending my sincere thanks to the Regional Council of Lapland for its commitment in hosting this conference, and to GTK, the University of Lapland, as well as to the other partners that supported the Regional Council in making this conference a reality. I would like to warmly thank the European Commission as a key driving force behind this conference. As Judith mentioned, is our joint EU-OECD project enhancing regional mining ecosystems for the green transition and a reliable mineral raw material supply. This project was funded by the TSI, the ECTSI instrument, and I would like to thank Judith Kaspar-Richter as well as Panayotis Markantonatos from SG Reform for the support and the excellent cooperation. I would like to thank also Maria Nyberg and Johan Canton from DG GROW for their support throughout this project. And last but not least, of course, a big thanks to the 10 regions which participated in the project, and many are with us today, from Finland, from Greece, Spain, Sweden, and Portugal, and to all the regions from the OECD Mining Regions and Cities Initiative that are with us today in the room or online. The findings of this project, which we will explore in depth in the next session and today, underscore the vital role of place-based approaches, subnational government and local communities in mining governance and outcomes. This is too often an overlooked dimension in the discussions around critical raw material. Yet, the effective implementation of the Critical Raw Material Act in the European Union, for example, largely depends on how mining ecosystems are managed at the regional and local levels in partnerships with community. A purely sectoral, space-blind approach from the national level risks missing its objectives. This is why our discussions today and tomorrow are so timely and so critical. Against this backdrop, I just would like to highlight two points. First, the need to adopt place-based approach to enhance the potential of mining regions economically, socially, and environmentally. As my predecessors have noted, this meeting comes at a pivotal moment, both for Europe and for the world. The demand for critical minerals continues to rise amid ongoing trade disruptions and growing geopolitical uncertainty, as you did mention. Global demand for key critical minerals such as lithium, cobalt is projected to quadruple by 2040. Yet today, mineral production remains highly concentrated. As of 2023, over 75% of global supply for cobalt, lithium, nickel, and rare earth elements is concentrated in 3 countries accounted. Processing is even more centralized. Adding to this challenge, export restrictions on critical minerals have surged more than 5-fold over the past decade. Reducing European dependency vis-à-vis external suppliers is thus at the center of the EU strategy towards climate neutrality by 2050. And the Critical Raw Materials Act, enacted just 1 year ago, aims to bolster strategic autonomy by increasing and diversifying the supply of critical raw material. While we know circular economy policies and demand-side measures are necessary to reduce pressure on primary resources, they alone will not meet the projected minerals needed to successful transition away from fossil fuels. In this context, extraction projects are needed for resource security, but it must not come at the cost of communities and the environment. To reconcile these various objectives, a place-based approach is essential to ensure that resource-rich regions are not just extraction sites, but also hubs of opportunity, innovation, and environment protection. This is the reason why the OECD has launched the Mining Regions and Cities Initiative. It was launched in 2017, and it has become a global platform for knowledge sharing, data collection, policy dialogue, and practical guidance. Today, 25 OECD countries and nearly 100 regions are actively engaged. And this is the 6th conference organized here in Finland after Canada, Australia, Sweden, and Chile, to quote a few. And the last point I would like to mention is the focus of our discussions today and tomorrow: community participation and regional innovation ecosystems. And these 2 topics are really at the core of the report that we will also present today. So today we will discuss extensively the central role of community participation, transparent communication, and community trust for mining. Building trust and fostering meaningful community participation are essential for implementing responsible mining projects that can be sustained over time. Mining inevitably produces an environmental footprint, and past environmental disasters have been painful lessons to draw from to enhance government oversight, transparent governance, and ensure early engagement with communities. Despite stronger regulations and greater corporate social responsibility, social polarizations around mining remains high. In many cases, opposition to new projects stems not only from environmental concerns, but from other issues related to governance of the sector. So disinformation, further clouds public debates and undermines trust in institutions. This makes proactive policy approaches for early, transparent, and inclusive consultation more important than ever. And here, subnational government, especially in rural and remote areas where mining often takes place, are uniquely positioned to bridge this gap. They can work with communities, companies, and civil society to promote transparency, ensure open dialogue, and build a shared understanding of both the risks and opportunities of mining. And today, we will focus on innovation. We know that strong regional innovation ecosystems are essential to aligning mining with both environmental sustainability and economic development. So to conclude, over the next 2 days, you will explore practical solutions, ambitious policy ideas, and actionable strategies to ensure that mining contributes positively to both people and the planet. We hope these solutions, these discussions will help you identify solutions and share good practice from the ground, lessons that can be learned and shared across all regions to support national and supranational priorities like the implementation of the Critical Raw Material Act. From the OECD side, these insights will be instrumental for us to support the work on mining, including our toolkit of good practices, our OECD case studies that we are developing now in Canada, Northern Ontario, Ben Guerir in Morocco that we will start, and others that we look forward to announcing very soon. So I very much look forward to your insights in the discussion today. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Dorothy, and thank you to all our opening speakers. You have set perfect the stage for the discussions for the coming days. We will now move into our first session, Enhancing EU Regional Mining Ecosystems for a More Reliable and Responsible Mineral Supply. This session will share key findings from a 2-year project funded by the EU through the Technical Support Instrument and implemented by the OECD in cooperation with the European Commission. We will hear from representatives of the 5 participating countries, the Commission and the OECD as they explore how regions are supporting the implementation of the EU Critical Raw Material Act. The session will be moderated by Kaspar Richter, Head of Unit for Sustainable Competitiveness at SG Reform European Commission. We'll begin with introductory remarks from Joan Canton of DG GROW, followed by a presentation of project findings by Andreas Sanabria, coordinator of the OECD Mining Regions and Cities Initiative. I'll now hand it over to Kaspar Richter to begin the session. Please, Kaspar.
Yeah, go there, no worries, no problem. All right, thank you very much, Kimmo. So I'm very happy to be here. As Kimmo said, my name is Kaspar Richter. I'm here from the European Commission from Section Reform. Delighted to be moderating this panel on enhancing EU regional mining ecosystems. And as Kimmo already explained, basically we will be doing 3 things in this session. So first of all, we will learn about the EU approach to mining. Then we will hear about what we've done jointly in a collaborative fashion over the last 2 years on the Technical Support Instrument project that Judith also talked about in the opening remarks. And then we have a panel discussion of a representative of 4 regions that participated in this TSI project. So again, we have Joan, who is the head of unit of energy intensive industries and raw materials of DG GROW of the European Commission, and also in charge of the Critical Raw Materials Act. Welcome, John. Thank you for joining. We have Andres, who is the project coordinator of on the OECD side for the Technical Support Instrument project, and also a leader of the OECD Mining Regions and Cities Initiative. Welcome, Andres. Jesus, thank you very much for making the way from Spain. You are Director General of Mines in the government of Andalusia. We have Timu Kailunen, Project Manager of the Kainuu region in Finland. Welcome. Then we have Lotta Zarts, Senior Project Manager from the region of Rebro in Sweden, and thank you for being here to also take care of the gender balance to some degree. And then we have Nick Bitsios, Head of Brussels Office of Metlen Energy and Metals Company, who is operating in the central region of Greece. So fantastic panel. Thank you for joining. But let me start with Joan. We have heard mining has a central role to play in the green transition, in the digital transition, on resilience. The EU adopted last year the Critical Raw Materials Act. So it's been a year. How has the EU advanced on this agenda? Please.
Thank you very much, Caspar. Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure being here today with all of you. Thank you very much indeed to the organizers of this conference. It's very timely, very opportune, and excellent conference, and I look forward to the discussions we'll have today. I already picked up a few messages from the introductory remarks. Dialogue, very important to enter here into a dialogue mood, and with the intention of exchanging on what we do and how we can do better together. A few things were mentioned as well on resilience and so on. I'll come back in a second on this. It's also very important for me to be here in Rovaniemi, which is obviously, as you all know now, a key mining hub for Northern Europe and for Europe in general. It is good to be talking about these topics where these topics matter, or at least where these topics take shape on the ground. It's very important for me to be here in this context and to exchange with all of you here in Rovaniemi and around. A few words of introduction for this session. I very much look forward to the presentation of the results of this study, and indeed it's a very important project, good collaboration across Commission services, also very good cooperation with other institutions and with the mining regions that are present in this project. But just to set the scene, if I may, although it was done already to some extent, but why do we need to get this right? It was mentioned before, demand for critical raw materials is going to increase if we are to succeed in our green transition, if we are to succeed in our digital transition, if we are to succeed in our joint resilience, economic security objectives. I don't need to go into a lot of details on these topics. And I would say that we see almost every day the reality of what it means not being able to be more autonomous, not being able to be more resilient or diversified when it comes to critical raw materials. These last few days, we spent a lot of time dealing with the consequences of the latest Chinese restrictions on rare earth minerals, the implications this has on European industry and beyond. I would say that for the first time, we see real implications of these export restrictions and licensing on European companies, with real risks that some companies will need to slow down or shut down production because of a lack of access to the rare earth, because of a lack of access to the permanent magnets. And that's why I think we have a clear obligation in Europe and beyond to accelerate and deepen our efforts in boosting capacities, in boosting diversification, in investing in research and innovation, in substitution, in investing in circularity. And you mentioned, Caspar, where are we on the implementation of the Critical Raw Materials Act? Well, it's basically all about that. All about being able to boost our capacities, to invest in circularity, to invest in innovation and substitution, because the needs are there. And sometimes, to be frank and honest, we don't have all the tools in our toolbox to deal with the urgent needs. Today, we have limited tools to deal with the latest export restrictions from China, because the alternative supplies are not yet there, because the investment in substitution and the alternatives are not yet fully in place. So that's why we're trying to work on this. So 3 things that I would like to mention in my presentation. First, what are we doing to implement the strategic projects that were mentioned before? Second, what are we doing to promote and defend the environmental integrity, the social aspects, and the social ambition of our approach? That's absolutely, I mean, the two are obviously interrelated, but that's absolutely essential. And third, what can we learn from the ground? I'll try to speed up a bit. On the strategic projects, as was mentioned, we adopted the first list of strategic projects, both in Europe, 47, and in third countries, 13. We have projects all along the supply chain: mining, processing, recycling, substitution. We have projects across Europe in 13 member states, and as I said, beyond in third countries as well. We are trying to work together with we as the Commission are trying to work with member states, financial institutions, project promoters, to make sure that these projects can deliver on the ground. It means ensuring access to finance. It means dealing with the permitting procedures that Mr. Ricci mentioned as well. It also means making sure that the project and the promoters understand their rights and responsibilities. Because yes, there are benefits from the strategic project status: faster permitting, access to finance, facilitation of offtakes. But there are also responsibilities that remain there in terms of fulfilling with the criteria we have in the Critical Raw Materials Act. Making sure that this project can benefit European supply chains, making sure that these projects are technically feasible, and of course, making sure that these projects are implemented in an environmental and social sound manner. So we are working on this. We will work on the next call. We will have a next call for applications soon after the summer. But we know that we won't deliver on these projects by staying in Brussels, by doing PowerPoint presentations, or by just speaking to the Brussels crowd, if I may call it like that. So that's why we're also trying to reach out. We have colleagues across the Commission traveling to the different regions, traveling to the different projects to try and understand on the ground what is happening. We're doing this by trying to promote environmental and social ambition. There are strong requirements in the Critical Raw Materials Act already. We see developments happening with member states on circularity programs. We are helping them by identifying the right flows of products that can be identified for this. We are working on delivering for the strategic projects and supporting the proper environmental impact assessment and the proper procedures in an accelerated way, but without shortcuts, if I can put it that way. The idea is to speed up things, but without shortcuts and without undermining the environmental and social aspects. And of course, we're also trying to promote that at international level by promoting standards. What I want to mention here as well is we see also very positive developments with member states when it comes to national exploration programs. This is one of the requirements of the Critical Raw Materials Act, and member states are doing this, are investing in identifying new sources of raw materials, making better use of the existing ones, such as the old mines and how the waste recovery potential of these mines. And this is something that is very interesting for us to continue. So to conclude, the relevance of this conference is absolutely essential because we see that we need to implement these provisions, we need to implement the Critical Raw Materials Act by working with mining regions, by working with the different ecosystems, through a dialogue, through discussions and recommendations, and through learning by doing. I think it's very important that we take the lessons from the exercise and that we understand what's happening on the ground. And in this context, it's also very important for me to listen to the outcome of this project and also to listen to all of you in your comments and suggestions on these different matters. So I'll leave it at that, and I look forward to the continued discussion. Thank you.
Thank you Joanne. So we keep in mind there are now strategic projects approved. That's fantastic. Thanks for highlighting the importance of environmental and social responsibility, and then the issue of learning on the ground. And indeed, Andres, you're the perfect person to follow up on this. So over the last 2 years, we've had this fantastic collaboration of 10 regions in 5 countries on EU mining ecosystems. So what have we done in this project and what have we learned? Over to you.
Perfect. Thank you, Caspar, and hello, everyone. It's nice to see you, all of you, and some of you that we have been seeing each other since the beginning of the conference in 2017, so that is great. I'm going to present the results of this project, just 15 minutes, quite sharp, but we can discuss later in the Q&A. As Caspar mentioned, well, this project is focused on 10 European regions, 5 from Finland, so Finland representing quite strongly here in the group, 2 from Portugal, 1 from Spain, Central Greece, and Örebro. We conducted missions to the 10 regions, interviewing more than 400 stakeholders in 26 municipalities. So that built us all about our findings, that gave us a bit the inputs for our recommendations. The main probably outcome is this type of report. You will find it in the QR code, and we have also regional profiles for each of the regions with the summary of the workshops that we think are also important for other regions in Europe, but also in other regions in the OECD. So, as I mentioned, I think very important part of this work is interviewing people, getting to know what people on the ground think are the main issues that mining brings to their communities, and also their solutions. We got very interesting solutions from mayors from the small municipalities, so that is very valuable for us, and we thank them for that. The findings. So just to say, these 10 regions are very important in the critical mineral value chain of Europe. You have in the supply of minerals the top producer of copper in Europe, that is Andalusia, bauxite, that is Central Greece. You have gold, that is nickel, that is Lapland, nickel in Kainu, and strontium also in Andalusia. So important producers, and also with important deposits. But also we saw leading practices on education and innovation. So the Oulu School of Mining, a driving force in mining school for Europe. North Korea, and especially in Finland, these vocational schools are very important. The Riviera in North Korea is quite interesting. Pilot plants, also North Korea has the GTK mining, also important, and Centro with CCTV, so that is good. The innovation networks, I think we have here semis from Kainu, so great to have you here, also this network and the Swedish innovation. We have also nice examples, interesting examples of mining governance, so regional, subnational plans of mining that is not so common across Europe, but we have Andalusia with that mining regional strategy. We have even at this municipal level, Sorancula, with a mining plan, so that is something that we want to share with other regions. Coordinated structures, like the mining hub in Lapland. And something that probably we have seen that because of the past, let's say, lack of political support to mining, companies were not so outspoken of what they do with in ESG, but they do a lot of things. And we have interesting examples of a diversification fund in Örebro, a company funding diversification strategies in the economy, regreening and fighting against forest fires in Central Greece, also interesting. You have also the hockey stadium in Sorancula by Boliden, so things are happening, but probably we need to say more that mining is doing just beyond economics. And also in green infrastructure, the green supply that Europe has is quite of the biggest advantage that we see. There are some important challenges, of course, that I think are probably holding back the fast implementation of projects, but also the link of these projects with well-being. First is the lack of workforce and skills, especially the mismatch that is linked with the population in many rural regions. That happens in rural Europe, but also in other regions in the OECD. The outreach to youth and women, I think there is a misconception of what is the new mining, what is the jobs in new mining, and I think that also needs to be worked. And lack of accessibility in training also in some areas. There are some gaps to link SMEs and entrepreneurs with funding in Europe. Funds are there, but sometimes information is not arriving to the right people. In some calls for the Horizon Europe on mining, universities are running this more on the innovation phase, short time, but with a lack of, in some cases, business approach. So the commercialization of this innovation is difficult. And community perception, we are going to talk a lot about that. I think we found interesting things, for example, abandoned mines, even for marble or non-metallic mines, are affecting the perception that community has on mining. And something very important, exploration projects. Companies can start exploration without an environmental impact assessment. Sometimes they are the ones just communicating directly with the community without any information from the government. And this type of direct communication, company, community, sometimes doesn't work very well. I mean, there are untrust in communities, so we are recommending a support from the government to a bit organize the house in these communication phases in exploration. And also important communication of what is mining beyond economics. In Alentejo, a big support in culture, and as I mentioned, other supports in sports and community infrastructure. Also, we have the challenge of permitting that is not at the regional level, but regions with the land use plan at the municipal level, they can help. And starting from that, I think regions have an important role. And a big probably something in regulation that we identified and a lot of regions told us is the classification of waste mining. Waste mining today is classified as hazardous waste. So it's difficult to use for construction or for secondary uses. And that is probably a common call for regions. When we compare these 10 regions with the OECD mining regions, with the 50 OECD mining regions, the top, we see that European mining regions, or these 10, they outperform in population. On average, they decreased 6% in population since 2001, while the OECD grew in these regions 11%. But as you can see, they only emit half of the CO2 per gigawatt of electricity than the OECD. So in environment, very strong, and also in GDP per capita, you have above of the median of the OECD. But when we come down to municipalities, I think it's an interesting story because these are the ones that probably host these big projects, and when these projects close, also there are some issues. So we have some good players, star players, Kittilä here in Lapland, with our colleagues that are going to talk in the next panel, and also a mining that is close to a ski resort. So we see this municipality is the one that is growing most in population in the region. Also, we have Sotkamo in Kainuu, a very important mine in Kainuu, but also an important tourism and activity around sports in winter. And we have the case of municipalities that close the mines in Oulu and Andalusia. Probably Andalusia's Nalcoya is going to change the story now. But just to say that we need to plan in advance, and that is a big call for the municipal mayors to plan in advance these projects. Just the recommendations, and just going quickly. We have main 5 pillars of recommendations, specific 15 recommendations, each with some actions. In policy framework, important to include mineral activities in the smart specialization strategies or in the regional strategies. Also to leverage ESG programs of companies. Companies are doing things, but municipalities are not coordinating these activities. In mining governance, we are going to discuss later community participation in decision making, especially since the beginning, since exploration. Communication on projects. The permitting, especially land use, the capacity of municipalities to understand this environmental impact assessment, to try to help this, especially the small municipalities in this process. And the environmental monitoring with the community, that is very important. I think that we need to build trust with that, and that is not so difficult in a way, but this environmental monitoring with communities is key. Regional workforce, there is a big skill mismatch, people studying other careers than the industry is asking. Tailoring education, especially some regions having the training center in the capital region, but people that are interested in mines are 10 kilometers far. They are not going to commute to the capital region to take a course. It's costly. So this is a point. Outreach on career opportunities, hands-on on what is the new technology of mining that is completely different than years ago. And regional attractiveness, childcare, especially in some small municipalities. Innovation, stakeholders cooperation, funding, and waste management. I think I mentioned a bit that. And regional infrastructure, that is important, especially planning and coordination of road infrastructure. Some regions, Lapland, for example, you have tourists, you have energy trucks, you have military. All these people use the same roads, and with mining, who are the affected? The communities that see these trucks passing and affect their day-to-day life. And in some regions, central Greece, probably, and others, an important boost for renewable energy that will help a bit the valorization of tailings and valorization of other projects that probably, because of the energy, are a bit costly. I'm not going to go into details, but these are the specific actions for community participation, communications. There are already regions doing some workshops on mining. I think North Korea, Kainu, have with the Association of Mining in Finland, are doing some workshops in Alentejo as well. So this is advancing, but probably we need more of that. The promotion of community-led environmental monitoring is happening in some regions, but the agencies are not taking into account too much the outcomes of these community actions. And in innovation, also big focus on access to funding. I think regions have the capacity to complement different sources of funding, the STEP from the European Commission, the cohesion funds, but also private and regional funds. They are the ones that really can probably help these entrepreneurs or some projects to access these funds in a coordinated manner. For the national government, we have also recommendations. We have 6 in 3 different pillars. Probably the most important are on the communication part. The institutionalization of these standards is important, and also in the innovation and the circular economy. There is an important also call for many regions to try to better understand what are the tailings that they have. For that, we need funding for the geological surveys. I think Finland is good, other countries probably know so. So understanding what we have is important to see the opportunities, the economic opportunities. And you mentioned, Mika, cumulative impact assessment is something that some municipalities need. One same lake, one same river being used by mining, energy, and other tourism and other sources. So that's it. So thank you for your attention, and happy to answer any question. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Andres. So for this quick dive into this very report. So as Andres mentioned, check it out with the QR code, and also check out the regional profile on your favorite region among the 10. Andres highlighted this is a framework for action, and there are some 15 recommendations that specifically address regions. So Jesus, let me start with you. From the perspective of Andalusia, how does this resonate? What do you do with this?
All right, thank you very much, Kaspar. First of all, I would like to thank OECD for the kind invitation to participate in this interesting conference, and of course our colleagues from the Lapland region for the excellent organization of the event and the warm welcome. For Andalusia, it has been really an amazing challenge to participate in this interesting project, and we have got some special guidances for developing our policies. First of all, I would remark that it has helped us to develop our governance system. In this sense, I would highlight two elements. First of all, to establish some of the guidelines of our strategy, the development of our strategy. We are now finishing the action plan linked to the strategy. We have 4 axes and it's split in 29 action lines. You can consult our strategy in the website. And the second thing relating with governance, I would remark, is perhaps the knowledge transfer and the development of the value chains. In this sense, we are now fostering the Metallic Mining Association in Andalusia to create an excellence center for the interchange of experiences and knowledges. We are willing that this would have a high impact. The second point that the project has helped us to develop is the issues regarding the social acceptance. In this sense, I would highlight mainly that social acceptance has to do with 3 things, main things. First of all, communication. Communication is essential. In this sense, we are deploying public information campaigns that we hope that will help to aware population about the importance of the mining activity. The second thing is dialogue. In this sense, we are now going to sign a collaboration agreement with a foundation in Spain. It's called Mining and Life Foundation, and I think that they are promoting, fostering very interesting dialogue fora that is the key for understanding altogether and finding solutions with local communities, environmental associations, and so on. And finally, transparency. In this sense, we are fostering the companies that operate in Andalusia to make their activities absolutely transparent, giving all the information regarding the projects and so on. And finally, and I finish with this, Caspar, it has helped us, to face some shortages we have. I will remark 2 of them. First of all, the lack of specialized workforce. In this sense, the project has helped us to properly size the occupational training offer to match it with the company's needs. It's very important, this. And the second aspect for us in terms of shortages is the energy infrastructures. We are working hard in that because new projects need a lot of energy, in the transformation and so on, and we have to reinforce the energy infrastructures, linking it with the green energies. I think it's the main key aspects.
Excellent. Thank you, Jesus, for highlighting these very important points. Great to see that you've got the strategy in the region and that you make effective use of it. Very, very good to hear these specific examples, how you've learned through the project on how to promote social acceptance and also the importance of addressing shortages on skills and infrastructure. So with this, let me turn to Teemu from the Kainuu regions. How does it look like from the perspective of Kainuu?
First of all, thank you. Thank you for all the organizers. Great job. Glad to be here in the Lapland and the pure nature, and of course one of the main mining regions. So first of all, 15 recommendations. So quite extensive work what you did, and thank you for that. So we have a lot of what can be implemented. So we will take a couple of the highlights. First of all, maybe the most, how can I say, obvious steps. So we have been strengthening the collaboration with the mining industries inside itself. It's a part of our actually strategy of regional mining. So this was a easy step forward, of course. Then secondly, we are just working to build our regional development program. Also, we have been taking some key priorities from the mining industry in it. And maybe the most obvious, as we have talking quite a lot about the strategic project of Terrafame. We heard about the nickel, European biggest producer. So we are seeing big opportunities how we can build a strong strategic partnership around the strategic project. And as a Critical Raw Material Act, it actually implements to building the ecosystem around. So we are looking how to build and making stronger the ecosystem, bringing also other than, of course, the mining companies to work together. We are looking at it as a key driving regional factor for the Kainuu region. And we are also believing that by building this ecosystem to be strong, we are able to then look for funding. Is it the public funding? Is it the private funding? Is it the EU funding? And with, of course, the funding, we are also coming to that we are being able to implement the circular economy as the sustainable mining. So then forward, well, we are not going to cover all 50 steps, it's not going to have time, but we have been strengthened the collaboration with the education. And this was one of the keynotes, what was brought up, that there is a lack of people maybe in the regions, and also sometimes the education doesn't meet, or it can be in the wrong places, the education compared to the people who would be interested to study. And Kainuu have done the work already before, but we are looking and building it up at the moment so that we could be better helping the mining industry to have the skill sets what they are going to need. And maybe the fourth one to bring, we also have, of course, the Regional Development Fund, and it's all the time check how to implement it. And in this moment, we are working how to highlight the research and development from the mining industry and how to help to bring new companies and new innovations for the region. I think this as a short note. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Teemu, for giving us a picture on Kainuu. Good to see again that the recommendations seem to resonate and seem to help you to forge the way forward. And also, Ron, I'm sure you took note of the fact that the strategic project seems to be getting some traction. So that's great to hear. So Lotta, over to you, Rebro region. How do you see it?
Thank you, Kaspar. Yes, this project has had a huge impact on how we talk about mining in our region, and I will highlight actually 5 key areas of implementation. First, we are working to integrate mining and raw materials into our regional development strategy, and this was entirely absent before. This work is being done as part of the EMRE project. It's a newly started Interreg Europe funded project that we are part of. And we see this as really a crucial step for long-term regional resilience and for aligning with the CRMA. Second, we are working to improve the visibility and the accessibility of our regional innovation support system. And the OECD study made it clear that although we have strong structures, but they often remain hidden for actors outside the existing networks. So that's something that we are working on right now. And we continue to build on platforms that bring actors together. And one example is Mining at Oru. It's an annual event at Örebro University where academia and industry, civil society and government meet. And the event continues to evolve, and we are working to bring in even more disciplines like sociology, human geography, to better address the social aspects of mining and sustainability, together with innovation. Fourth, the EMRE project is also expected to lead to the establishment of a regional mining forum, a long-term platform for dialogue between municipalities and regions and county administrative board, industry, civil society. And the aim is to create a space to address cross-cutting issues like spatial planning, permitting processes, and environmental responsibility. And lastly, we have taken insights from the OECD profile and our regional experience to the national level. In meetings with the Swedish Ministry of Enterprise and Innovation, we have highlighted the unique position of the Bergslagen region, its historical and ongoing relevance, and the need to include it in the updated national mineral strategy. We've shared the regional profile from OECD and argued for recognizing Bergslagen as a strategic mining region with strong industrial potential and a deeply rooted culture of collaboration, shaped by its long mining history and still present in today's strong regional ecosystem around the mining. Yes, thank you.
Excellent. Thanks a lot, Lotta, for highlighting these 5 points. So from the importance of a regional development strategy, innovation platforms, then the regional mining forum, and then the dialogue, of course, with the national level. Let me just use this opportunity also to make a quick reference to Portugal. Lotta, you referred to the EMRE project. So if I got this right, this is the European Mining Regions Innovation Ecosystem Supporting Circularity and Resource Efficiency Project. And just to mention that Alentejo, that was also part of this project, is also part of the EMRE project. And in terms of central region from Portugal, one aspect that the central region is highlighting is the important role of looking at mining also from the perspective of circular economy. So let us go back now to the south of Europe, to Greece this time. Nick, you come from Lapland, so you take the company perspective on energy and metals. Please tell us about Central Region.
Sure. Firstly, thank you very much for having me up here in this beautiful place. First time above the Arctic Circle for me. Quite an interesting experience last night as well with the sun. We had fantastic curtains, at least in the hotel. But yeah, maybe before answering the question, a couple of words about who I am and why I'm here. So as you mentioned, I work for a Greek company called Lapland. We are active, as the name maybe implies, in a few different sectors which work very well together. But of most relevance to this particular conference, we are mining bauxite in the region of central Greece. It is, as far as I'm aware, at least in the EU, the only region where bauxite is currently being mined. We do have a couple of other projects in the broader European community outside the EU countries as well. And then we take this bauxite to our facilities that are nearby, also in the region of central Greece at Agios Nikolaos by the sea, where we have a refinery. We use this to extract alumina, and then we turn this into aluminium. So we recently announced a 300 million euro investment in the region. which is one of the 47 projects that Juan mentioned before that has been labeled as strategic under the Critical Raw Materials Act. And this involves doubling our bauxite mining in the region from about 1 million tons to 2 million tons per year. We're going to boost our alumina production by about 50%. And then for the first time, we are also going to produce gallium in Greece. So this is a material that has been caught up in this trade war that's been going on between the USA and China. China currently produces 98% of the gallium in the world. You need it for various strategic technologies. The paramount one really is semiconductors. They've been implementing export restrictions since the summer of 2023. With our project, we have the capacity to produce enough gallium to cover the entire European demand. So coming back then to your question, it's extremely important because in order to make sure that we have the social acceptance and that we're working together with the communities and also with the local authorities, who we have a fantastic relationship with, invited me as well here to speak today. We need to make sure that everyone is working together in the right direction, the same direction, and also sharing best practices. And this starts, I think, from the European level, making sure that we have an enabling framework under which we can all do this. I'm a lobbyist by trade, so most of the time I'm going to the Commission, I'm complaining about things, why didn't you do this, you should have done this differently. But the Critical Raw Materials Act is something that was extremely important. We're very, very happy with it because it was the first time, at least that I can remember, where we had that clear message coming from the policymakers that we want mining, it's important, and that it needs to happen in Europe as well. And this ends up trickling down then to the next stages of governance. We're awaiting in Greece this summer, should be the review and basically the new mining code, which is something that was originally started back in 2012, was the original idea. It's been in drafting mode since then. And the reason was that it was never really a political priority. And we see now with the focus, there's a greater understanding overall on raw materials. The Critical Raw Materials Act played a really important role here as well. We will get this review and basically modernization of the licensing rules. We'll have a lot of the provisions brought in line with the Critical Raw Materials Act as well. And then importantly, we will also have, at least from what we hear, other provisions that are more general and help to ensure sustainable mining in the region of Greece and Greece more generally. And this is the point that I'd like to close on, because very often when we have discussions about raw materials and about mining, we focus very much on the environmental sustainability and permitting. And the reason for that is, I mean, it's completely clear. That's your license to operate. That's the biggest environmental risk that you need to manage. And it's the biggest hurdle as a result that you have to overcome in order to get a mining project up and running. But then to make sure that it can be successful over its lifetime, there are many other aspects that you have to look at. One of them was mentioned before, which is energy. It was mentioned before by my Spanish colleagues as well. This is really, really critical because in most raw material value chains, you have at least one energy-intensive stage of production. In our case, we have two. So we need to make sure that we have initiatives, mostly at national level. This would be in Greece. There's a big focus on permitting for renewables. Infrastructure is a massive thing where the Greek government is really pushing to have a European approach to the grids. And then industrial policies as well to make sure that our industries can access this clean energy at competitive rates as well. I'll close there for now.
Excellent. Thanks a lot, Nick, for linking the geopolitical situation to the ground reality in central Greece. Great to see that there is momentum. Also, the new developments in gallium, very exciting. And of course, also great to see how the Critical Raw Materials Act then helps also to improve the national legislation to get the regulatory framework in order to support the EU mining ecosystems. So let me again turn to Jesus. I think one idea of bringing the 10 regions together was, of course, to also help the sharing of experiences, the learning of good practices. When we think about this important need of making mining sustainable and also responsible, benefiting the communities, what are the lessons that you would share with the audience? Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Kaspar. Well, we all have to learn all together from each other. So We don't give lessons, but we share practices that we think that has worked fine. I would say that mainly we can, in this scene, share our experience in 3 fields. First of all, the aspects regarding with the permitting process and the streamlining of the permitting process. In this sense, I can say that we had a case of good practice that we were able to get the permitting of a new project in just 27 months. This is really a milestone. It was a good project. It was underground mining, and all the conditions were, propitious, but it's undoubtedly a good figure. I think that the permitting process has to do mainly with 3 things. First of all, the quality of the project. If the project has a high quality, the permitting process goes quicker. The administration doesn't need to ask for new documents and so on, so the process goes in a quicker way. So we have to, first of all, to put the light on the quality of the projects. Regarding the actuation of the administrative procedures, we can say that in Andalusia we have a specialized unit for quickening the permitting process of the projects. Not only the mining projects, but all kinds of strategic projects in Andalusia. Is a speeding up unit for the projects. It's working very, very well. I think that the success stands upon the configuration of this unit that is integrated by professionals of different fields that have a holistic point of view of the permitting process, and this is very important. And of course, the third pillar is the social acceptance of the project for getting a good process for the permitting in a quick way. The second aspect I would remark of good practice to share perhaps are issues regarding the environmental license of the project. In this sense, we are trying from the government of Andalusia to link the permitting of the projects to environmental liabilities. This is, we think, a very good practice to restore the past of the mine that in many cases is not good, as you know. In this sense, Andres quoted before the recent authorization of the mine in Aznalcóllar, Los Frailes mine. This has really been a milestone in Andalusia. This mine has a past complicated, and it has been a very hard process to authorize that mine, but I would just say what the owner of the mine says. They say that is an environmental project standing upon a mine. So they put, first of all, the environmental point of view, because we have linked the authorization to the environmental liabilities, and we also make a part of that a policy, an active policy of restoring abandoned mines. And the final issue I would remark is that right now in Andalusia there are some projects very interesting from the point of view of developing new technologies for valorization of on-site valorization of the ores. And we have very disruptive technologies that can be shared and are very interesting. Thank you very much, Kaspar.
Jesus, for sharing these good practices. And I think indeed the report recognizes very much as good practice this acceleration unit that you have. Congratulations on the fast permitting that you do, and thanks for highlighting this importance of looking at the environmental angle and also the role of technological innovation. So very important. So Timo, what good practices do you see that you would like to highlight?
Thank you. And first of all, actually, it was great that we have this kind of different kind of regions, actually different kind of players in the project. So exactly we could learn through the good practices, as Jesus was telling. So not just teaching, but actually showing and understanding that how we could implement. Well, there would be a million reasons to come to Kainuu, of course, but if taking something, the mines are really the driving economical system in Kainuu. It's a really big part of it. And of course, to develop, we want to also make it sure that they are not going to vanish and they are competitive. So to develop the mines, you need the skilled workforce, and they do need all the time continuous learning. And also this can make sure that the future, also the mines will have a skilled workforce what actually they will need. So we are working tightly with the educational institutes, and as I said before, we have implemented and we are going to implement even more for this, because we understand that this is going to be a big thing for the future. The world is changing developmentally. Secondly, in Kainuu, educational institute, research institute, business, public organizations, as the local communities, we are working actively together. Basically part as the whole community and the ecosystem, and together we can develop more competitive mining industry, and same time actually to have research and development coming along automatically when people from different fields are working together. We are a small region, and without this kind of implementations, it's not possible to be so successful on the side. And maybe the last ones, when we come for the, actually Mika brought in the opening remarks about this social acceptance. So we can see that the ecosystem collaboration with the multi-party collaboration increased the social acceptance, and that's quite important for the, well, generally for all the minings, that they can be support and they have the social support around, not just that they are going to bring, but bringing this ecosystem and collaboration, we are able to increase the economic value of the mining highly in the region, and of course economic value, money, and taking part of those people to make the decision and see how big impact it has. Will bring also the part of the social acceptance for the project. So maybe this kind of intakes and sharings with the colleagues. Thank you.
Great, thanks a lot, Teemu. So good to know there are many reasons to go to Kainuu, but they certainly include, looking at a region where mining is really driving the development of the whole ecosystem, the collaboration with educational research institutes, and then the collaboration with different stakeholders to really ensure social acceptance. Lotta, tell us about Örebro. What good practices could you share with us?
I will share 3 examples from our region. First, Metals for You. It's a youth education initiative that links mining to sustainability and metals in our everyday life. Combines art and digital tools, school programs to improve understanding of the mineral sector and its role in the green transition. And of course, we believe it's crucial to start early if we want to improve long-term acceptance of mining. Actually, this summer we are building a large artwork with rocks or boulders, approximately 40 large rocks from the Zinkgruvan mine in a 10 by 10 meters maze. It's a square 10 by 10 meters, but formed like a maze. And this will also be equipped with QR codes, with games and to help understand where metals come from, what you use them for, and so on. So this is really a fun project. It's together with Zinkgruvan and the municipality of Askersund, and it will be placed in the shoreline of Askersund in the city. Also, we have the Zinkgruvan Rethink program that's developed together with the municipality of Askersund. And it's an entrepreneurship and business support program. It helps strengthen the local economy beyond the life of the mine through mentoring and business development, sustainability-focused innovation. So this is really a good example of how mining companies can contribute to long-term community resilience. And again, I want to highlight the Mining at Oru platform, as it brings together different voices, academic, industrial, civil, and helps align concerns and opportunities with global sustainability challenges. And we believe this approach helps build trust and makes mining projects more socially accepted.
Excellent. Thank you, Lotta. So we've got the youth, very important to bring them along. On mining, we've got the need to, the agenda around business development, and we've got the program of the agenda of bringing the stakeholders together through the Mining Oru platform. So very good practices to be shared by Örebro. Nick, tell us, how do you see these good practices? Are there any good practices that you could share from the perspective of Metland that could inspire others?
All of them are crucial. So I started off by talking about global geopolitics. Now I'll focus on the local level. Look, companies exist to make money, but it's incredibly clear that you also have the license to operate based on the social contract. That is especially true in the mining sector. I think you only have to look around Europe in various countries to see that without that social contract, without the acceptance of the local community, you simply cannot exist as a mining company and go ahead with the investments. In central Greece, we're slightly fortunate in this regard that we have had mining there for a long time, many decades. So bauxite mining in Greece started about 100 years ago. It was then boosted quite a bit under the US Marshall Plan, which had a lot of investments in infrastructure in order to help Greece to valorize its domestic wealth in terms of resources. And then our aluminium plant was actually built by a French company called Péchinet back in 1960. They came and they built the aluminium plant to be close to the bauxite deposits. This was far from the big sort of urban areas, and there was a need to build a settlement for the workers at this aluminium plant to work. So they created a little village, a settlement. It's called Aspraspitia, which translates into white houses in English. And here today we have about 1,200 workers from the factory. There's another 500 external contractors who come in and do various work at the factories along with their families, and many businesses around this who are effectively indirectly also supported things like supermarkets, restaurants, gas stations, pharmacies. It really helps to show how mining operations and industrial operations and the metal sector more generally can help to work hand in hand with the local communities. So because of this historical link, there is an understanding, at least when it comes to the existing mines, New ones are more of a challenge. And actually one of the things here, which is really important, is that some of the resistance comes from the older mines that we had where you did not have the rehabilitation done properly afterwards. So this is something that we take very seriously. All of our old mines that we're no longer working on have been rehabilitated. We've planted over 1,000 new trees in these areas. And this is, sorry, 1 million new trees. I'm order of magnitude out. That sounded a bit low. Over 1 million new trees. But this is absolutely crucial because if you're coming in and you have the inherent environmental impact of mining, and if you're not taking care and giving it back in an acceptable condition, then it's very, very obvious that your social acceptance will vanish extremely quickly. Another topic from the report that I want to touch on and has been mentioned by quite a few of the previous workers is skills. This is becoming one of the biggest barriers, not just in mining, but in processing and in manufacturing more generally. We need more engineers. So in order to address this, one thing that we have done as a company is that we have set up it's been running for 10 years now, a program of work experience where young engineers can come in and experience different parts of our industrial processes. Some of them are kept on. Others then have a good experience where they will hopefully go and find another good job elsewhere. One thing where I think can still be strengthened there, and it links very much to both the report and some of the other comments that we've heard so far, is strengthening this link with the local communities, coming back to the point that was made previously on education, and making sure that kids at a young age are learning about what mining is and why it's important. I mean, I can think of myself when I was 18, I had no real idea what mining was. I had a vague idea. I was lucky enough to stumble upon this career where I can come and talk to you and be in this beautiful place. But the younger that we can understand, as the understanding is there and the interest then to work in this field will also increase as a result. One final point, we mentioned the competing land uses. We mentioned tourism, which is a very important thing for Greece. It's important for the region of central Greece as well. We would not want, and I'm pretty sure the local authorities would not want, our operations reducing the tourism. So we need to find ways that this can work together. One thing that we have done there is we have turned one of our old mines into a tourist attraction. So you can go, you can visit it. I went there as a tourist actually earlier this year. It's an extremely interesting day out. You go 2 kilometers under the hillside, you go into the hillside. So kind of cheating in terms of how far you go down. But you show there, you see demonstrations of how the mining used to work and how the process has developed over time. So that's a good day trip that you can do. You can pop away from the beach and go and learn a bit mining, and then you're back at the beach by the afternoon. So any ideas like that, I think, help as well. I leave it there.
Great. Thanks a lot, Nick, for all these great lessons. So tradition can help, right? Building on that tradition, but make sure that you rehabilitate the old mines and take care of the environmental liabilities. The issue of skills, very important, bringing the engineers along. An issue in mining, but also in other sectors, but certainly mining has to take care of that. And then giving us this new concept of mining tourism. So let's hope it flourishes. I'm sure it does. Thanks a lot. So we have a little bit of time left. So I was wondering, are there any questions from the audience to our panelists, to our speakers? Yes, please, over there.
Good morning, this is Ludwig speaking from Roma. A question for Nick. Are you doing something new and progressive with the bauxite residues, with the red mud?
That's a very good question. So bauxite residues are the biggest environmental challenge that we have in the aluminium sector. So it's the residue that's left over after you've refined the bauxite and in the process of producing alumina. So we are involved in various European programs that are funded under Horizon in order to find different ways to valorize this residue. So you can use it, for example, as a raw material in the cement industry. We're currently managing to valorize about 10% of this, and we're looking to scale up because at the moment it's a big problem. You see, next to any alumina refinery, there's usually some big pile of bauxite residues, and the more of this we can valorize, it boosts and it feeds into the circular economy as well, and it solves this environmental issue as well.
Yes, please, over here, the lady.
I really like the collaboration I see amongst the different European countries here. And I saw the news today that the G7 has looked at collaborating on critical minerals. And so do you think that with the work that you're all doing, this will be facilitated as, of course, many, well, the majority of the countries are from the European Union in the G7, and but working closely with Canada and Japan as well. Do you think that this work can help to address this collaboration that we're looking at in the future in regards to critical minerals?
Okay. John, do you want to take that? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. It allows me to cover one thing that I didn't have time to cover in my introduction remarks. First of all, I think it's good news that we see some collaboration also at the G7 level. One of the things that G7 leaders are trying to work on, to be honest, I don't know whether they manage to have final conclusions altogether, but it doesn't matter. On substance, efforts are there to try and create these high standard critical marketplaces. So basically trying to push for trade in critical raw materials with high standards, high ESG standards and high resilience and sustainability standards in general. And I think that's exactly what we need also for our European projects and also projects in third countries where we have strategic partnerships. We need to compete by the top and not compete to the bottom with the lowest possible standards. And in order to do that, we need to work together to create these markets for green or sustainability at large premiums. That's one of the things we will try to do through the Critical Raw Materials Act implementation. We are working on creating a platform that will facilitate demand aggregation for raw materials, and also that will facilitate the uptake or the offtake of strategic projects, in the sense that we were going to offer a possibility for strategic projects to be able to find offtake agreements, to find offtakers or downstream industries willing to buy their products through the platform. And of course, we're going to try and do that by promoting the high standard and the sustainability aspects that we wish to promote with the projects we have on the list and beyond.
And my question sort of follows on from that. So you're at something like 3% in Europe and aiming for 10% internal production. And that other 90% is obviously quite a question for all of us here. And how do you envisage, I suppose, the sustainable supply requirements being, I suppose, imposed on the people that you're going to import the material from? So 90% of that material is coming from elsewhere in the world, and we'd clearly like to see those standards that you apply so highly here in Europe being applied elsewhere. So what's your thoughts about how that's actually going to work over the next 20 to 30 years, I suppose?
Colleagues, feel free to jump in as well, but just a couple of words on my side. You're absolutely right. We will continue to rely on trade in raw materials and on international sources of raw materials. There are several things we're doing. First, the key objective, I think, for Europe as a whole is diversification. We can't rely on a single source of supply from one country in particular for any of our strategic raw materials. Now, you know that in many cases, this country is China, but it's not always China. Depending on the raw material, it can be other countries as well. And in all cases, it is not a good idea. Not a good idea because then this dependency can be used against us, or I mean, can be used on purpose or just by accident because there is a problem with the country and so on. So we need to work on diversification, and we are trying to work on diversification by promoting indeed these standards. Two things I want to mention. First, we are developing strategic partnerships with a number of third countries. So we have 14, soon 15 strategic partnerships with countries in Latin America and Canada, Australia, Asia, Africa. And these partnerships are built around the idea that we need to boost value added both in the country of origin and in Europe, meaning that we are not trying to identify, we are working on identifying concrete industrial projects. These partnerships are also about concrete industrial projects, but these projects need to build value added in the country of origin by respecting environmental and social standards, also by creating value added there. So for instance, it can happen that the processing needs to take place in the third country and not in Europe, because this is where value added is created often. And as a counterpart to this, then we work with European companies and they can find offtake agreements and they can work together. That's one thing. The second thing is that we are also, and this is an ongoing work that we have as part of the implementation of the Act, working on developing, schemes or how to recognize the certification schemes in third countries, mining activities basically, that can then come to Europe and be sold as raw materials. This is something that we want to do, that we cannot do alone. We need to work with ongoing existing initiatives, but we also want to make sure that we have minimum, in a sense, criteria that will apply in the future for products traded with Europe and between Europe and third countries. So these two things are important for us, working in particular with the strategic partnership countries and also developing these certification schemes that allow us to better recognize and acknowledge the carbon or social footprint of our raw materials.
I just want to say something because at the OECD, well, we have this work stream, this fight of there are a lot of regions in mineral value chain, that is this group. But at the OECD, we have another group, other big fight on traceability, the responsible business conduct. So we have done some recommendations to countries for investors as well, working very closely with the Stock Exchange of London and with Canada. That is another fight that is important, the traceability for the investors to invest for projects that are sustainable, but also for the especially automakers or big consumers of these minerals to try to buy minerals that are already filtered through a good traceability. For that, we have some people from standards in the conference today. We are going to talk. I think the issue is which standard, how we can overall all together look at one standard and follow something that is reliable and we trust. I think it's something that we can discuss also. Yeah.
Thank you. One last question before then we wrap up.
Hello, good morning. I'm the lucky for the last question. Thank you so much for the great presentation. I have two questions for the price of one. My first question, I'm Evelyn Roman Escobar. I am on behalf of the Securing Indigenous People's Rights in the Green Economy Coalition. And I have two questions for you as announced. My first question is a bit in line of the other questions, is how are you going to ensure that the rights of indigenous peoples are going to be respected? And this is very important because 54% of energy transition minerals are on or near indigenous peoples' territories. And that is also considering the indigenous peoples that are recognized as such, because if we take the ones which are not, this goes up to 75, 80, and in places like US, you have nickel being 97% within 35 miles of native regions. So indigenous peoples are quite strong, not stakeholders, but rights holders in the conversation. My second question is a bit on going from social acceptance, also in line of social acceptance. You all have highlighted the importance of energy transition minerals in the frame of energy transition and the green transition. right? But we know that in the last period, more and more other uses are being highlighted, including aerospace and including defense. So I was wondering how you are going to ensure that the critical energy transition minerals that are mined for the energy transition are effectively going to go to the energy transition and they are not going to go to other uses. Thank you so much.
I can take over the one on indigenous quickly, because we have a stream of work on that actually, on is better involving on giving the voice of indigenous communities in regional development. That started like that, and more is focusing on mining and resource activities. How we are going to do it is try to push through these recommendations spaces for governments for the discussion first, because in many countries it's still the discussion. I think in this forum in Europe, well, in some countries it's important, in others, well, no. And the second is how you ensure that really they are presented in the decision-making process. That is from the beginning, and there are FPIC and some international standards, how the governments recognize that. I think we just provide the platform and the recommendations for governments to go through that one. I don't know if someone wants to reply the critical ones.
So on the second point, there are traceability schemes, at least in Europe, with regard to sort of being able to see where a final product has come from. We need to improve it, and I think it comes back to what Joan was saying before in terms of making sure that we're, to the extent we can, making sure that the imports that we have coming into Europe, that we know where those are coming from as well. We have various initiatives that are being put forward at European level as well. I can speak about aluminium. If you look at the projections when it comes to demand growth, and the reason that we still need mining is that globally the demand for aluminium is still increasing. The big demand growth from areas like especially electric vehicles, energy transition overall, but defense is it's a small volume. So I think it's a very important one. I think over the past few years we've unfortunately seen the importance of having that security as well, but we're in a country that takes that very seriously. But I do think that when you're looking at the bigger picture and the big volumes, they will be going towards this material. You need to make sure that you're recycling as much as possible in order to reduce this. This is something else that we do that we haven't had enough time to speak about today. We could have a whole session on that as well. But I think when you are looking at the volumes of where this demand is coming from, the big one, the big increase that you're seeing is from the energy transition.
Excellent. Well, many thanks to the panelists for the fantastic contributions, for the discussions. Also, big thanks to the audience for the great questions and your attention. I just wanted to wrap up to say on behalf of Section Reform, again, a massive thanks to the partners in this technical support instrument project. Jesus, Temu, Lotta, Nick, has been a fantastic collaboration. A big thanks, Dorothee, Andres, for the great collaboration with the OECD, Joan for the fantastic support from DG Grow, and of course Mika and Kimo for the great conference and for allowing us to launch this report today here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kaspar, and thank you all the panelists for your presentations, comments, and most of all, thank you the audience for your very essential comments and questions. So it's good to continue from this. But now we have coffee break, 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, we continue here. Have some refreshments. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. I'm sorry that the coffee break was a little bit too tight, but I still wish that you had at least some refreshment for your body and soul during that short break. Now we will continue and we move to a highlight of today's program, our keynote address, which will take a deeper look at the social dimensions of mining. It's my great pleasure to welcome Adjunct Professor Leena Suopajärvi from the University of Lapland, Finland. So she's speaking in her home field, I would say, and she will explore the root causes of social polarization and public resentment towards mining activities. She will highlight the importance of promoting better understanding of the sector, its benefits and impacts on local communities, and the critical role of trust, transparency, and institutional accountability in addressing misinformation and minimizing environmental and social risks. So please join me welcoming Professor Leena Suopajärvi to the stage.
Yes, thank you to my home, welcome to my hometown, and very much thanks to the organizers for inviting social scientists to have a talk in this seminar. So that's why I start with classical thinkers. You know the man in the picture, the gentleman in picture, Karl Marx. And you probably know that Karl Marx actually made a beautiful analysis of capitalism in his own time. He very detailed analyzed how goods and things move, how their value is created, what is the role of the labor, and what is the role of natural resources. And Karl Marx argued that in capitalism, the basic aim is to create profit, and also that nature actually has no value if it's not used, if it's not exploited for the purposes of production. When considering mining industry and this field, mineral industry, in the mid-2020s or whatever sector in productive life, so these Marx's old arguments are still valid. Of course, mining sector operates on capitalist logic. Its basic premise is to find and refine minerals and sell the products on the world markets. I'm sure that every business is aiming to create profit. In general states, wherever in the globe, they usually want businesses to run. They want workplaces and taxes to maintain the gross domestic product as high as possible, hopefully for well-being of citizens. So in general, states are very much pro-mining wherever in the globe we are. And when we come here in the European context, yes, European Union, as we have heard many times today already, wants to be more self-sufficient in producing critical raw materials needed for consumption-based lifestyles, of course, infrastructures for fossil-free societies, and lately more and more for military uses for defense. Thus, the only obstacle for mining development is local people. The second theme that I was asked to talk about is key actions to promote a better understanding of the sector. And I just want to show you one picture. It's from our latest research project at Chimera. We simply asked, have you been in contact with mineral exploration companies? In 23, almost half of the respondents say no. And now when we made the questionnaire again in February in this year, it was almost 60% of respondents that they said that they have not met even mineral exploration companies. And our research area is here in Rovaniemi, in Posio and Kuusamo, and they are very active mineral exploration sites. So in that way, this result was a little bit surprise for us. Thus, I think that one key action is clearly very evident, and I think that it was also there in OECD's recommendations, that mineral exploration companies must at least communicate about the exploration. And as everybody or very many in the room know, that if there are problems in the communication in the exploration phase, so it may harm seriously the project which may be developing. So this is a very clear message from local people. And certainly the main concern is cumulative impacts to the environment. In all the research projects, which I have been studied around 10 years now, the social aspects of mining, the primary concern of local people are the cumulative effects of a single project. But then, environmental impacts that accumulate over the years are also result of several ongoing projects. So its cumulative impacts come from one project, but it might come also from several projects. And actually this picture is from River Kemijoki. And at the moment there are only 2 mines operating in the upper springs of River Kemijoki. But if all the plans that are now currently going on, so it would mean that there is half a dozen mines in the Kemijoki watershed, all leading their mine waters into the Kemijoki River. So it might be asked that who will take a responsibility about this thing as a whole? And according to local people, they would say no one. So companies carry out individual projects in accordance with the terms of the permits and legislation, and that is perfectly fine. So this is about state. How does legislation or regulation in general and the authorities take responsibility for which belongs to the state? It belongs to take care of environment and people. So these are also the results from Machimera survey, but again I remind that this same kind of results we have seen in, I might say, in all case studies what we have done. So mining criticals do not trust national decision making nor supervisory authorities. And it is noteworthy that also those who generally accept mining share this criticism. Also, they think that local people are not heard, and they are very much worried about environmental impacts of mining and about environment in general. Trust is really an important and fundamental foundation of complex societies. And trust comes into play when there is no knowledge or certainty that things will go as planned or as agreed. So you have to trust that the authorities will do the job according to the law. You have to trust that politicians do what they promise. You have to trust that companies will be responsible for environmental issues. So this is something that you just have to trust because you don't know if all these things are going to happen. So actually mining criticism or resistance stems from disappointment with state jurisdiction. Whether in question a so-called developing country in South America or Africa or a so-called developed country in Europe, people feel that there is a power imbalance, and remember my first slide, and they feel very often voiceless and they feel powerlessness. And it is, for me at least, somewhat surprising that state which has the power on people within its borders, and state has the power on land. And states are not interested in defending the interests of local communities or taking responsibility for the environment. Hence, I would say that instead of blaming companies, which mostly operate by the book, there is a need for societal discussion and national decision-making on premises of mining operations, so that the regulatory context for companies is stable, the views of local people are taken into account, and the state of the environment remains as good as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You know, CTK is also impartial, neutral research institute, so we know the code. Just a present. Okay, so thank you so much, Professor Suopijärvi, for that insightful and thought-provoking presentation. I think it was very welcome for this conference. And now please join me in welcoming our first panel discussion. We are moving towards panel addressing polarization and building trust in mining regions, communication and consultation. This session will explore the vital role of improving information sharing and community engagement to tackle social polarization around mining. Our expert panelists will share best practices and strategies for strengthening trust, enhancing dialogue, and fostering meaningful participation in mineral projects. Moderator of this session is Mr. Toni Eerola from the Geological Survey of Finland, and now I will hand over for him to introduce the panelists. Welcome, Toni.
So thank you for this opportunity to lead this panel with a very interesting and current topic, critical topic. I would like to ask to join me here Karin Belan Lindahl, then Ricardo Diaz, and Matti Blindberg, and Jani Lösönen. So thank you for joining me here. So I will introduce quickly participants of the panel. So Karin Belan Lindahl is an associate professor in political science at Luleå University of Technology in Sweden and the head of research at the Swedish Mountain and Summit Museum in Jokkmokk. She has over 20 years of experience in research on natural resource politics in Sweden, EU, and internationally. Her research explores conflicts over natural resources, the causes of such conflicts, and how they can be handled fairly. Much of her research addresses land use issues, particularly those related to forests and minerals. She is also interested in the governance of sustainable development and societal transformation. Several of her current projects address indigenous land use and rights in Sweden and internationally, particularly in the context of climate change politics and the industrial transition that is taking place in the north. And then Ricardo Diaz, he is governor of Antofagasta, Chile, and he has a career as a teacher, and he has been basic school director and also environmentalist. He has led a campaign against pollution caused by port operations in Chile. He is also a politician, and he has been elected, he has been a governor of Antofagasta province since 2021, and he was recently re-elected to that position. Congratulations. And then we have Matti Blindberg. He is a chairman of the Swedish Sami Herders Association, the main organization of Sami herders in Sweden. Mr. Blindberg is a reindeer herder and leader of the Sami village of Girjas, located in Gällivare, northern Sweden. He is former member of the Swedish Sami parliament, the Sami Tinget. And Mr. Jani Lösönen is the vice president for Europe of the Agnico Eagle Mines and managing director of Agnico Eagle Finland since 2017. He has over 25 years of experience in the industrial sector. Prior to joining Agnico Eagle, Mr. Lösönen held various production and business executive positions in Kemira and Ecochem. Mr. Lösönen also served as a board member of various companies and organizations. He is the member of the board of the Finnish Mining Association, Finmin, and he's also a member of the Euromines Executive Committee. He holds a master's degree in industrial engineering and management from Lapland University of Technology. So welcome all. Now I give short introduction to this topic. So the topic is polarization in the mining debate, and we face this polarization also in the society. So mining and mineral exploration cannot avoid apparently that and this political polarization that is going on in society, in Western societies especially, it has started around after this financial crisis. So there are kind of reasons for that. And of course, social media have deepened this political polarization. And so we live in this moment a kind of post-truth and era of alternative facts. And this era began in 2016 with Brexit and Trump's first election, and now we live the period of Trump 2.0, which I already call as an age of insanity. So, mining and mineral exploration, we are dealing with this topic within this context. So we have at the same time we have this polarization, we have geopolitical tensions, we have green energy transition, and there seems to be great insatisfaction with the green energy transition. It seems that this issue has not discussed in full and inclusively by the society yet. So there are different kind of paradoxes within that whole issue. So this topic is cross-disciplinary. Myself, I work with this, so SLO, mining disputes, and so mining skeptical movements, and I call that as a social and political geology. So I'm geologist, but I work with social issues. And this is a cross-disciplinary field. So we had already a very interesting keynote by Leena Suopajärvi. She is social scientist. We have also Karin Lindahl. She is political scientist here. So we will change ideas regarding that in these issues within this panel. So we will travel through measures, suggestions to improve the trust in the mining industry, and also to mitigate this polarization and tensions which are present in this discussion. We will hear about personal experiences and perception about the situation in different countries and in their personal professional life, and also roles which various actors should take in this discussion. So I let's start, and I would like to start with Karin's presentation.
Thank you. So addressing polarization and building trust first presupposes an understanding of the reasons of these problems. One common reason is one-way communication without sincere interest in learning and listening. However, this can be addressed by engaging in proper dialogue, and lots of research exists on how to do it. Another common reason is poor process. Consultation without proper representation or resources for effective participation. This can also be addressed by fair and legitimate process, and again, in research we know how to do it. Unfair distribution of cost and benefits between company and communities or between state and local communities is another common reason for friction. This can, at least in theory, also be fixed by redistribution and compensation of disadvantaged parties. However, many mining-related conflicts also involve disputed institutions, that's legislation and rights, and underlying almost all mining-related controversies are questions about values. So in theory, these 2 points can also be fixed by proper dialogue and institutional change. But in practice, values have proven extremely hard to change, and institutional reform is usually slow. So I'm going to spend a little bit more time on these 2 points. Oops, no, is it? Oops. There. So how impacts on mining projects are assessed and balanced by individuals, groups, and places vary, and they go back to fundamental values and worldviews. So values related to economy, population, and economic growth, and how we perceive the relationship between human and nature appear to be particularly important and shape people's attitudes to new mining projects. So in our research, we have identified 4 sets of values which have been present in all mining conflicts that we've studied this far. They're illustrated here, of course, very summarized by these 4 bubbles. So people prioritizing jobs and growth, they tend to see new mining projects as opportunities, as indicated by the blue bubble in the upper right. However, people privileging care for nature, care for Sami culture and reindeer herding, Sami rights, tend to see resource exploitation as threats, as illustrated by the green bubbles. And then there are, of course, those in between. But what research shows is that these kind of value-based attitudes are usually very hard to change. Even with the best participatory approaches and the most ambitious deliberative methods, they're hard to change, and these conflicts are very hard to resolve. These kind of value conflicts are also reflected in legislation and rights, as illustrated by this example, which is the conflicts that occur with mining between Sami reindeer herding communities and the Swedish states. So the state's point of departure, which you can see in the left column, is typically that mining is something good, it provides jobs, the projects can coexist with reindeer herding, and the legislation ensures fair trade-offs, protects the environment, and respects rights. The reindeer herding communities on the other side, in the right column, they argue that reindeer herding also generates sustainable jobs. They question the state's position that coexistence with mines is always possible, and they argue that reindeer herding is effectively being squeezed out by different kinds of land exploitation. They also maintain that the consultation processes are often unequal, that they suffer from lack of means to actually influence the outcomes. Many Sami actors are therefore critical to the legislation which guides permitting and resource management, and they point to weak instruments to make fair trade-offs, and they argue that the legislation in practice does not address Sami rights. So clearly, these conflicts reflect value differences, but they're also about state-controlled processes and rules, which Lena was also addressing. So how then can polarization and distrust be dealt with? The reasons to the problems, as I've been trying to explain here, exist on several levels. So measures also have to be taken on several levels. So in the inner circle in this picture, that's where communication takes place. That it's important to work towards mutually beneficial dialogue. That's something that companies and actors can do. But how this dialogue is unfolding, it also depends on the process. That's the second circle. How it's designed and how it's implemented. Who were invited to the table in the first place? And does everybody have the resources to participate effectively? And is participation paired with influence? This, in turn, depends on institutions in the outer circle, the rules of the game, legislation and rights, and they are defined by the state. So, yes, communication and consultations are definitely important, but they're not enough. Trust building requires dialogue. It requires fair and legitimate processes, including proper consultation, and it requires supporting institutions. Thank you.
Yeah. Let's save the questions after presentations and discussion. So next, I would like to call Matti Lindberg to give his talk.
Thank you. I have no slide and no presentation. I'm going to present myself and what I stand for. Matti is my name. Lindberg, I heard you call me reindeer herder. That's very kind of you. But with respect for my reindeer herding colleague that's out in the forest every day, guarding the reindeers from mining, foresting, water power, wind power, predators, snowmobilers, you name it, we have it. They do the hard work. I just try to be a voice for them to deliver our message out to the society around us. I'm a little bit surprised, not surprised, but upset, not so surprised in fact, that no one have mentioned that we are on indigenous land in this moment here in Rovaniemi. No one have mentioned the respect for indigenous rights, and that's a key question for me. When I started my engagement for the Sami rights and the political work, soon I realized we are in a big trouble because we have a lack of resources, both economically and in competence, but it's starting to get better. But after a couple of years, they're starting to talk about the green transition to save the planet. And immediately I realized the green transition wasn't for me, not for my people. The green transition was a big black cloud that announced a thunderstorm coming. And now we are in the middle of that thunderstorm. And I realized that this green transition is nothing else but a question about economical profiting. And the conflict is between two different ways to look at nature and humanity. For me, the nature is where I live, where I find my life, where I find all my livelihood, my people, and respect for my ancestor and for the future. But when I see mining companies coming and taking away the land from me, it's really break my heart. I realize we're going to need mining in the future, but I also realize that we have no way to communicate with the Western society that's digging for these minerals. You talk about critical minerals, the Critical Mineral Act, Raw Material Act. For me, every mineral is a critical mineral because it's a deadly threat against my people and my culture. Of course, as a human being, we survive, but my culture is going to die, and we have nothing to left for the future to my kids, and they're coming after me. So that's the real threat for me. I think in the European Union and in the Western society, we think we are one happy family, everyone is the same, but that's not the fact. We have different way of looking at life and different way to looking at economical, as Karl Marx did, good analysis of. We have to, at least from my point of view, we need to have a more helicopter view over the area and what people live in there and the region, and how do we take care of our future. Because what's going on at the moment, my opportunity to stay alive in my culture and is going to disappear because of the mining. We have the wind, we had the foresting, we had the water plants, recreation, so on, so on, so on. All that together make it impossible to live in a traditional reindeer herding way. So that's the question to you, everyone in the room. Is that the price we have to pay for the growth? Of course, for me, it's not so. We need respect for each other. We need to meet at equal parts around the table and discuss different projects for mining. I know we need mines in the future, but I want to sit with the table at equal part with the mining companies. And no from me should be respected, and also a yes from me should be respected. Because I'm pretty sure of we could find solutions many times to develop mining, but there are no-go zones also. And that I want to be respected in the future when it comes. I drive down, I live outside Kiruna. I drive down here to Rovaniemi yesterday. I passed the Kiruna mining area, the old mining Tullavaara. I passed Svappavaara with the old mines. I passed Vittangi where the Tiger planning for graphite mining. I passed Pajala with the Pajala mining area. So 4 Sami community and 7 and 8 mines coming. So you see this balance in the nature. We need to really think again, and every mine is not necessary. Many mines are just profiting. Swedish government give okay for the Galok mine, that is iron ore mine. And I live in Kiruna. I don't have to remind you about Kiruna is the largest iron ore mine in Europe. So iron mine is not a critical mineral for you. For me it is, because they're threatening my livelihood. Thank you.
Thank you, Matti, for your excellent words and views. And the Sami homeland in Finland is also a kind of sensitive context where these disputes happen. And for a long time, companies have actually avoided that area. But now there has been some claim reservations and so, and of course disputes have emerged in that land too, in Finland. And this situation is in Sweden, of course, also. So now I would like to call Ricardo Diaz-Cortez to give his speech, and I think we have a video about
We're talking about trust, and I don't know if you can trust in me. I'm politicians. In my defense, I'm activist. To have a job, I'm being governor. So it changed everything. Good morning to all. It's a true honor to be here. I would like to begin by thanking the local authorities and in very special way, the First Nation representatives who welcomed us today to their ancestral territory with generosity and wisdom. The greatness of their people and their history, marked by effort, dignity, and resilience, inspires all of us who come from afar. My name is Ricardo Diaz-Cortez, Governor of Antofagasta Region, and I'm joined with Mercedes Alvarez, Head of our Division of Development and Industry, and Regional Councilor Humberto Fuentes. I come from a land of relentless sun and infinite desert, a region that has always fought to survive and flourish. Our territory has long sustained Chile growth. And today we look to the future and say, with hope and determination, yes, a different kind of mining is possible. Yes, we can build a development model rooted in dignity and territorial respect. Antofagasta is Chile mining heartland, the world top copper producer and the second largest in lithium. Today, 20 new mining projects are planned in our region, totaling over $31 billion in investment. But we know that wealth alone is not enough if it does not improve lives. Despite having the highest GDP per capita in Chile, comparable to Denmark, we still face unemployment, poverty, and inequality, especially among our indigenous communities. This paradox led us to ask a central question: how can mining truly serve well-being? How do we move from extraction to sustainable development? That when we invited the OECD to help us, we joined its mining region and city network and launched a collaborative effort that resulted in something powerful, a mining strategy for the well-being of the Antofagasta region. This is more than a technical plan. It's the outcome of a broad participatory process. Communities, companies, academia, institutions, and our First Nation all came together in open, respectful dialogue. We learned something essential. The future is not imposed. The future built together. Let me highlight 3 key achievements. 1, a shared vision, a competitive, responsible mining sector that promotes well-being. 2, 5 strategic goals with measurable targets. 25 female participation in mining, 50% of students with 21st century skill for mining, 100% renewable energy use in mining, 60% reduction in fresh water use in metallic mining, 30% cut in regional greenhouse gas emissions. 3, binding approval. The strategy was endorsed by our regional council. It now transcends political cycles and become long-term commitment by all sectors, public, private, academic, and civil society. To ensure implementation, we create a governance model with equal voice to all. For a board of representatives from key sectors is supported by technical committee and thematic commission. Civil servant Gabriela Gomez leads the executive secretariat, ensuring continuity. This is not about individual leadership, but shared responsibility. And the results are already visible. Public-private cooperation is delivering a strategic project in health, water, and education, especially in indigenous areas. Thanks to this model, execution times have been shortened by 12 to 18 months. Environmental action. In July, we begin construction of a new wastewater treatment plant for Antofagasta. It will eliminate discharge into bay and enable industrial reuse the treated. Diversification. This month, we will open a new extra-port logistics zone at La Negra, boosting SMA and regional trade. This is not just a speech. It's a strategy in motion. We now have a dedicated website, a video, a monitoring platform, but more importantly, we have something no document can replace: collective hope and civic energy. Because, yes, copper and lithium can coexist with clean water, good jobs, and thriving communities. Antofagasta does not just extract minerals, it shapes the future, and that future is filled with vision, dialogue, and joy. Is a more inclusive mining possible? Yes, we already began. Can companies and communities work together? Yes, and we're doing it. Is sustainable mining real? Yes, because the world needs our resources, but it also needs living territories. That is our commitment, and this is no longer a dream, it's a strategy in motion. Thank you very much.
Sorry. Thank you, Ricardo. Antofagasta is a very important mining region, such as Lapland, and we have similarities also, even having global south and global north perspectives, but both regions have indigenous people, both have mining, mineral exploration, and mineral deposits to be found. So I thank organizers for this excellent choice of panelists, because we have really a good diversity here, and we have this global south, global north dialogue going on, and we have research, we have indigenous people, we have a politician, and we have mining industry representative also. So the only company representative, Jani Lösönen, will give his speech now.
All right. Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to be here as a mining industry representative, as you said. I will share a couple of thoughts about Agnico Eagle and our way of engaging the local community and what we think about responsible and sustainable mining. First of all, a couple of words about our mother company, Agnico Eagle Mines Limited. We've been around almost 70 years, which is part of our strategy. We are committed to kind of a long-term presence in the regions in which we operate, and we want to be the kind of positive contributors also in those countries and regions we have our operations. Today we have mines in Canada, we have mines in Finland, Mexico, and Australia, and by production profile, we are the third largest gold producer in the world. And if you look at the market capitalization, in other words, the value of the company, we are the most valuable number one in the world with $61 billion market capitalization at the moment. We have approximately 17,000 employees, and we are stock listed in Toronto and New York stock exchanges. Then if you jump to Kittilä, closer to Rovaniemi, we've been operational almost 16 years now. We started in 2009, and the first indications about on gold in Kiistala village were spotted already in 1986, almost 40 years back. And as I said, we've been in operation more than 15 years, and the estimated life of mine is still late 2030s. Again, at least 30 years commitment, but I'm quite confident that we'll be there in 2040s and hopefully also in 2050s as well. We produce roughly 7,500 kilograms of gold a year, and we are the largest gold mine in Europe. We have roughly 1,000 employees, and we have very local workforce. Actually, 90% of our employees come from Lapland, and more than 50% from Kittilä municipality. That's important, and that's part of our kind of a local commitment and social license as well. Last year, our revenue was slightly short of €500 million. This year, I believe we will be close to 600 million, so substantial contribution in that sense as well. If you think about our kind of longer-term ambitions, this vision statement was crafted, I think, 2-3 years back, but we look at our presence from 3 different angles, which are equally important for us. Of course, the workforce is the engine of our business. We got to be a good employer. We got to be the preferred industrial employer in Finland and in the Nordics as well, because we compete on the same resources, best talents with Sweden, for example. And we want to create kind of feeling that it's good to work for Agnico, kind of a family business type of atmosphere. And I think we have succeeded quite well. We have long relationship with our employees, and really the satisfaction is on the high level. Today we will mainly talk about the local communities and our collaboration with local community. And our aim is really to be a good neighbor and responsible member of the local community. This is part of Agnico Eagle Mines, the whole company mission statement as well. And we want to create long-term, I want to kind of emphasize the word long-term value in the region and also in Finland. So no quick wins, no short commitments, but preferably at least decades in one location, and building on the infrastructure, building on the resources, building on the knowledge we have, for example, in Finland, Canada, and Australia. And even Karl Marx understood that businesses got to make profit. I don't often share his thoughts, but this time he got it right. I think we got to be good long-term investment for our investors. But on the other hand, maybe it might be a surprise to some of you, but shareholders are also extremely interested in our ESG, environmental and social responsibility and corporate governance. I have attended a number of investor meetings where we only talk about ESG matters, not about gold mining, not about costs or tonnage or stuff like that. So important. Then a little bit more about the environmental responsibility. I consider it a foundation for a healthy dialogue with local community. It's a foundation for the social license, and you got to get it right. If you have environmental concerns, you do not respect the environmental permit limits, or you have any unexpected incidents, it is a very easy way to lose the trust, which takes then a long time to build. Our way of looking at that thing is that we got to increase our production, we got to enhance and grow the business, but at the same time, we got to reduce our environmental footprint. And this is very current matter. We got our new environmental permit just like 2 hours back today in the morning. And again, it allows us to increase our production slightly, but at the same time, we got to lower our environmental footprint. Increasing production, lowering our footprint. That's the way we want to run the business. And it means also substantial investments. We have done 150 million euro investments in energy efficiency, water treatment, tailings management, and so on and so forth since 2018. Not increasing the production, but reducing the environmental footprint, and also carbon neutrality is important. The electricity has been carbon neutral for a couple of years. We know what we do. We do a lot of analysis, 50,000 analysis, water analysis only on an annual basis, and we are fully compliant with the relevant industry standards, mining industry standards. Social responsibility, one way to look at it is our economical contribution. What have we done for the local community and society in there? Our tax footprint last year was 73 million euros altogether. There might be an impression in Finland that mining is kind of a tax-free industry. It's not. We are contributing a lot in the local economy, and as you can see, Helsinki, capital of Finland, and then the 2 largest cities, Turku and Tampere, and then surprisingly enough, Kittilä is doing very well. And this is a result of good collaboration between mining industry, tourism industry, and traditional livelihoods like reindeer herding. And together we can do significant things, which you can see on the map. Then community engagement. The dialogue has been mentioned many times today. I think that's the key. You got to build trust, you got to be open, you got to be transparent, and you got to also listen. And one good way of doing that has been the liaison committee, which was established already 12 years back, and it consists of members from closest neighbors, municipality, business associations, tourism representatives, reindeer herders, and so on and so forth. That has been the communication channel where we can share information, where we can listen to concerns, and where we can really discuss with the relevant local stakeholders. That has been very good practice, and I think it's the key that we have also very strong support from the local community at the Kittilä mine. And maybe last point I want to mention, there has been discussion if reindeer herding can coexist with mining, if tourism industry can coexist with mining. At least in our case, we can coexist and we can benefit actually each other. One testimony of that is that Levi Tourism Industry Association awarded us with the Partner of the Year award in 2021, and I think that's quite a unique thing even in global scale, that tourism industry considers a mining company the closest partner, and that's what we want to be also in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Jani. Kittilä is really one of the good cases that we have in Finland. We have many mines in Finland where there is no conflict at all. So Kittilä is one of them, and actually one of the examples where tourism and mining coexist in harmony. So this is really a great achievement when we compare for many other projects, and it seems that the strategy that tourism industry, local tourism industry takes regarding mining, for example, in Kittilä, they decided to collaborate instead of opposing, like in Kuusamo or in Kolari, for example. So this is a quite different case, really. Gold, of course, is an important commodity. It's an investment asset, and also for jewelry. So, and we are talking about, green energy transition, but do you know which is the commodity that attracts more investments in the world? Have you any clue? No, gold. What it tell about us as humanity? That we have gold as a main investment asset. So it's quite paradox that we talk about a green energy transition, lithium, cobalt, nickel, so on, but gold is still the most attractive investment asset. And that's because it has its value, of course. There is little use in industry, electronics, for example, but most of the gold actually goes to Indian middle-class jewelries. So there is this kind of paradox. Anyhow, this is very well-balanced panel, so we have representatives from many different sectors of the society, and regarding mining. So we can now start to discuss, and I would like to ask for you, the first question is that how is polarization in your country or region, and have you somehow felt it personally? How have you perceived that in your life or in your professional career? So we can start with Karin.
Okay, now, so I live in a small community in northern Sweden. So generally, and in this community, I have experienced polarization on a personal level, in the sense that there are potential mining plans in this community, and that's actually really dividing the community in two. So that's on a personal level, but as a researcher, I can see that, yes, if we look at northern Sweden, It's not like every mining project or every mining community is polarized. This really depends. It depends on place-based factors. But we can see that polarization is often followed by distrust, and that this is increasing over time. We can see more polarization, more polarized conflicts now. But I've also experienced polarization without distrust. So for instance, with cases that we've worked with, and we worked with actors, we've seen that trust can be built, but it's not always reflected in less polarization in terms of differences between different views and values. So we've had several examples where we work with stakeholders and actors, and they become experts actually on re-representing their perspectives and values, which Matti also talked about. But do they actually agree? No. So I think that, again, these deep value conflicts are often polarized, and the values can actually not always be bridged. Maybe we have to understand that the best that we can achieve is to agree that we disagree. But that's also a great achievement, if we can trust each other and we can come to a conclusion that we agree to disagree. That's a good position, or much better position than a distrustful relationship.
Thank you. So, Matti, can you tell us about your possible experiences about this?
Polarization, you think of? Yeah, I could. I try to do it in English, and not so easy, but it's quite complicated. It's like a low-intensive, not war, but a conflict, at least. And every time something shows up on media or in the society, discussion about raid and herding conflict against mining, foresting, whatever other interest, things happens out in the field, so to speak. We got reindeer killed, we got what you say, buildings destroyed and things like that. That's a normal day. That's nothing you react over. It's got so far so we don't go to the police anymore because they don't do anything about it. So we just live with that fact that we got some raiders killed if we say no to something. But that's the price we have to pay, sorry to say. But in the same time, I was chairman of a Sami community in Sweden that was in court for the right to handle the fishing and writing rights in my community, and we won against the Swedish government. So we have the right now to decide who want to fish and who are going to hunt and what time of the year and so on. And as a consequence of that win, we're starting to get more respect in the society around us. People start maybe not to understand us, but they respect us. They respect our will to let the reindeer herd be in peace in certain time of the year, respect it in a good way. So they don't agree, but at least respect it. So in that way, it's a good way to we become more equal, if you understand what I mean, because it's a question of become equal parts in every conflict, and then we could start to have a discussion that leads forward to solutions. So polarization is good as long as it leads to something positive.
Yeah, a good lesson from Sami people from northern Sweden. So, Ricardo, what do you have to say about this?
You ask about the personal situation, and when I was activist, I suffered too much about this polarization. I was 3 years with no job because my government attacked me because I'm crazy activist with no investment in the regional mining. So when I be elected by my people, I think it's time for vengeance. And no, the values of our First Nation is not the vengeance. It's not the peace. It's the union. It's the dialogue. So I think the role that I be is just in the center inter mining companies and First Nation and promote the dialogue. And that is that we did. I found this strategy with the aid of the OECD and promote the dialogue.
Very good. Dialogue is certainly one of the essential components of this to reduce tensions and to try to find common ground to discuss. What about Jani? Do you have any personal experience about this?
Yes, sure. I have talked about the polarization in many occasions, especially as a member of Finnish Mining Industry Association, and you said the word common ground. I think that's what we need, and as, for example, Matti said that he understands the importance of mining, and we need mining products for the kind of modern life. Our lifestyle is not possible without mining, and we even have kind of a scientific evidence that roughly 95% of people share that thought, and somehow we got to build on that. And the key word is that we do mining in a sustainable fashion, and in a fashion that respects also other businesses, other industries, and also, for example, First Nations rights. And from that, we can probably build something which enables coexistence of mining and other industries in the same part of the world.
Thank you. As Lena and many of the previous panelists also told, and also Karin mentioned that all this polarization, all this huge debate that we are having, and even conflicts in many parts of the world regarding mining and mineral exploration, there are deep roots in values, livelihoods, also worldviews that are different, and also beliefs. So I think that mining industry really need to push forward this dissemination, this raising public awareness, telling what mining is, its impacts, social and environmental impacts, and try to really reduce them, mitigate them, in order to show that it is a value for the society to have production of raw materials for its needs. So this is really, really important in that. But let's go to the second question, is that how, in your view, how do you think that these tensions, this polarization regarding mining and mineral exploration should be kind of mitigated, and how to create more trust in the mining industry? Karin can start.
Well, thank you. I think I mentioned a number of mechanisms or avenues to strengthen dialogue, to engage in fair and legitimate process, fair distribution of cost and benefits, etc. And there, I don't know, I mean, there have been numerous EU projects that produced toolkits. So I think there's lots of knowledge out there, actually, of how to do this, best practices. So that's, in a way, the low-hanging, easy fruits to pick. I also mentioned that I think that supporting institutions, supporting legislation, and which respects Sami rights or indigenous rights are necessary, and that's something for the state to do. So I think it's important to realize that although communication, consultation, I mean, it's really, really important, and I don't want to downplay the importance of it, but it's also important to realize that there are limitations to what you actually can achieve with communication, because people do not readily change their worldviews. So we also need to think beyond what we can achieve with communication and deliberation, because we may still have to deal with very conflicting views. So how do you do that then? And I mean, if we live in a democratic society, our way of doing this is is to, this is something that we do by democratic decision-making, and that requires legislation. So what is important then in order to reduce conflict and tension is that that legislation or the mechanism whereby we actually make these decisions are considered and perceived as fair and legitimate. So that, because they're in many instances, they're going to be winners and losers. And then it's going to be really important that both the winners and the losers can actually respect the decisions that have been made. And then we need legislation and decision-making that is perceived as legitimate and fair by everybody. And I also just want to make one note then on how this discussion about polarization and conflict. I think it's important also to differentiate between destructive conflicts, okay, because conflicts and polarization can become really destructive. And it can divide communities in two, it can destroy friendships, it can, for instance, mean that you can't get a job. But polarization and conflict is also part of society, and it's a part of actually achieving social change. I mean, if we look back, if we wouldn't have had polarization and conflict, we probably wouldn't live in a democratic society. So this is really something to remember, that we need to, polarization and conflict, we have to make that distinction between when it becomes destructive, it's something that we definitely need to avoid and deal with. But polarization and conflict as such is maybe something that we also need to embrace and acknowledge and deal in a more constructive way.
Thank you, Karin. Of course, yeah, this is typical for human behavior also, but it depends how this is done. And to try to avoid very destructive and kind of behavior. So, Matti.
The question was trust, you say?
How to increase trust in mining and mineral exploration, and how to mitigate this polarization?
Yeah, I think I understand the question. In Scandinavia, at least in Sweden and Finland, have not ratified the ILO Convention 169. That's one thing for the governments to start with. Also, they should implement FPIC in the legislation. I was in Brussels during it was 2 years ago, when the EU discussed the CRMR, Critical Raw Material Act. And from the beginning, I understand that the FPIC was a part of it. But Sweden and Finland were active against it, so it was taken out from the CRMR. That's not the way to build trust, I think. That's starting a conflict more than building trust. So communication is not only the only way to find solution, but you need to respect each other. And I often get questions from a mining companies and organization, hey, tell me more about reindeer herding, and educate me about reindeer herding. And I could do that, inform them in very briefly. But I have hope to get them to understand the whole concept of reindeer herding and my livelihood and my culture. I just want them to respect it and realize I'm expert on my lifestyle. I have no intention to start a mine or working in the mining, and I'm not expert on mining. You don't have to educate me about mining. I know enough of it. I live in Kiruna area, so I know enough of mining. I don't want to dig any deeper into any mine. For me, it's a bit scary.
Thank you, Matti. You mentioned respect, and I think that this is one of the key words for everyone to deal with other people, and even that the opinions diverge, but anyhow there is a need for respect to each other and to possibilitate this dialogue and collaboration and so on. So, Ricardo?
I'm in accord with the respect, and I add the dialogue and a little secret. When the mining companies need credits, they need a social contract. when the mining companies go to the London Stock Exchange, need the social contract. And the secret is the social contract is given by the community. It's given by the communities, indigenous communities. So when the companies understand that, they must need the dialogue. They must construct a relationship with the communities. And the government must be there and promote this communication. This is the goal of the government, promote the communication, because we need investment, but we need the life of our original people. We need the life of the territories. And that is the solution. And the secret is the social contract is given by the people.
Thank you, Ricardo. And what about Jani?
Well, I think many good things have been said already. We have heard communication, we have heard dialogue, we have heard respect. All that is relevant. Maybe the only thing I'd like to add is really to walk the talk, really act in a responsible fashion every day, taking good care of your environmental management questions, taking good care of your relationship with the neighbor, and it's the kind of small things we do every day, and over time it builds the trust. It's rather easy to lose. It can happen overnight, but it takes years to build the relationship and really walk the talk, do the right things, not only about talking about the right things.
Yeah, one good practice for mineral exploration companies, for example, that we have seen to be lacking in Finland is that because of green energy transition, many companies have not practiced it in any basic stakeholder engagement or communication. People just did not know what these people are doing in their bushes, you know. So it was amazing, and I understand that when there is a mining boom like green energy transition, companies compete of the same areas at the same time, and they apply for permits in a hurry without looking the associated land use, and this happened very much during this green energy transition since 2018 and especially 2020 in Finland. And so I consider that this communication and stakeholder engagement, they are a way to respect the local people, take them into account. And also it is not only good behavior, it is a kind of polite approach. Hey, we are doing this, and you know, to start some dialogue and even possibly collaboration. And there is a term that describes stakeholder engagement even as geoethics. So this is a new term that we are launching here also for maybe some of you already know, but social and political geology also deal with these issues. So let's go to another question. So within this mining debate, there are many actors and they have different roles in this debate and also activities. So I would like to ask for Karin, which kind of role communities should have in this kind of, if we want to, you said that polarization can be good also, it can lead to a change and maybe we need it somehow, but if we want to reduce tensions, for example, in this debate, so what role do you see that communities can have in that?
First, I think it's important to acknowledge that communities are seldom one. We often refer to local communities, but local communities often consists of lots of different groups, lots of different interests, and also sometimes they can be united, but often they can also be divided. So what can communities do? I think what is important for community leadership, like for instance in the Swedish setting municipalities, like municipality leadership is to recognize the fact that their local community may be divided. Because what we often see is, for instance, that municipalities represent maybe one interest or pair up with one interest. And that then, of course, aggravate conflict and tension within that community. So it's really important, I think, for community leaderships to recognize the diversity of interest within the communities and make sure to actually represent the range of different interests that exist in the community. I think also, if I go back then to the community Jokkmokk, where I live, which has been dealing with a very infected mining issue for a long time, where the municipality, it's now a couple of years ago, decided actually to do a citizen dialogue. So everybody was invited, and what also then the municipality did was not only to invite all the different actors and stakeholders on the local level, but they invited in a series of professionally facilitated stakeholder meetings or open town hall meetings, also the state representatives, the representatives of the different authorities and the companies, that's actors that local actors usually don't have access to. So in that sense, the municipality acted as a kind of facilitator. We've researched this process afterwards, and that's clear that this kind of citizen dialogue, it was very, very much appreciated, and it did increase the learning in the local community and among the local actors. But again, did it decrease polarization? No. But nevertheless, it's really important because that raised general awareness, and it did increase trust. So even if the local population still disagree on the question of the mine, it facilitated local dialogue. So I think that's something what the local community can do. But I think it's also important to remember that actually limitations to what local communities can do. And what they can do is ultimately defined by the legislation and what role they have, for instance, in permitting processes. So that's different in different countries, but at least in Sweden, the municipalities actually don't have a decisive say in these processes until very late in the process. And I think this is very unfortunate because then they can voice their concerns, but they're not included in the decision-making process as until the very end. So that, of course, limits what the local community actually can do in these processes.
Thank you, Karin. And Matti?
Same question.
Yeah.
Same question.
No, sorry. I would like to ask for you what role, for example, research can have in this spectrum, to mitigate these tensions and to search for more respectful kind of dialogue and so on.
I've been learned to never trust the scientists, so that's easy. No, it's very good to get the answer. You get what you say. My thoughts, I realize sometimes I'm not totally wrong. So I get support from the research and academy and in my observation in the society, because it's very interesting to see what happens when you zoom out a little bit, especially when I live in a community and in Kiruna in the mining industry, and this quite harsh circumstance human beings interact with each other. It's very interesting. So it's really nice to have discussion with you, Karin, and other researcher, and look into what mechanism is it that make us so forced into conflicts to polarize this. And because in the end, when you start talking with the other side, that's so angry at me, we realize we have the same interest in the beginning. Anyway, we could come together if we just start to talk with each other. And then it's very good to have people from scientist leading the discussion, because no one believes in me. But in the scientists, they believe. I'm the other way around. I'll never trust the science. Thanks.
That's good and happy.
Thank you, Matti. And I would like to ask for Ricardo about the role that companies need to have, in this scenario.
I think the companies will be understand that the tax is not enough. The companies will search the well-being of the communities. The goal of the humanity is the happiness, not the richness. And for that, the companies, the mining companies, will looking for generate the condition of the well-being of the communities.
Thank you. And I would like to ask for Jani about the role of activism in that. How do you see that it should have, which role it has to play in that?
Well, we have talked about the dialogue and understanding different perspective, different views on land usage, different perspective on mining industry and economy and society all in all. And I think always when you are able to listen different parties, share different thoughts and have a kind of a healthy dialogue, it will enhance the way we do the business, and hopefully it will also increase the knowledge on the importance of mining industry, importance of nature protection and environmental aspects as well. So I hope that we could have even strong connection and even strong dialogue, even more stronger dialogue with the activism and all those stakeholders which are relevant for our industry.
Thank you. So we have had 3 questions and all the answers for that. And I look stressful for the clock that is running, and there is a need to respect our stomachs also. Sorry for that. But so I thank you all panelists. It was a great pleasure to have this opportunity to talk with you and talk with this audience, and let's continue discussion afterwards. So thank you for all.
Thank you once again for Toni for hosting this, moderating this panel, and thank you for the panelists. It was really a pleasure to listen to you, and I think that you discussed exactly in a way that is building trust among different opinions. So Andres has something to remind me. I try to remember, but let's let's see how it goes. So now we will have the lunch break, but before the lunch break, there should be a family picture. It's always the most difficult part of the conferences. So now I give an opportunity for Andres to explain how it happens.
No, but very simple. We are gonna try to squeeze here. Everyone, please come down. I think some people are gonna leave after lunch, so it's the moment to take the family picture. And please stand up. We have the photographer there. Up.
Is he going to take the picture from that side?
Yeah, from there.
Down.
You go up. So yeah, everyone here facing the audience. So the photographer will be up, please. Taller people on the back, the short ones on the front.
Should we go